Calling the February 27th, 2020 Planning Board to order. Call the roll call, please, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Chair LaFaro.
Here.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Here.
Secretary is here. Board Member Zuccarelli
Here.
is back.
Don't say
Oh.
that in public record.
Board Member Burke.
Present.
Board Members Blaney and Long are absent, but...
No,
No, they're not.
Blaney's
Oh,
here.
Blaney!
He's
There
here.
you are.
Telling you. Don't make me come down there. Instant polder.
So we do have a quorum.
Wonderful. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any minutes, Phil?
Yes, we do.
I got everything shut off.
We have the minutes from December 19th of
December.
19. 12/19/19.
Okay. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Dennis, second by Glorian. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Blaney, right?
We're going to move into close the close the regular session. We're going into a work session, the Puccio Laundromat.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So I do have some materials for everybody.
All right.
Once you get those, give you a brief little summary.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Afternoon.
Your building looks so nice. Always. You did a good job.
I keep updating it inside too.
Do you? Do you have mostly office rentals? Yeah.
Cool, cool.
I don't know actually which facility it is.
It's right on the, right as you leave going east out of Hampton Bays.
Okay. So this is a work session to discuss a proposed laundromat in Hampton Bays at 134 East Montauk Highway. What you see there is a proposed floor plan and elevation. I included an aerial as well. It's about a 5,500 square foot building with 65 washing machines and 49 parking spaces. This piece of property had site plan approval for 2 separate buildings for medical offices, but the applicant is looking to change to do a laundromat. At this time, they don't meet their parking requirement, but potentially there's the opportunity for a cross-access agreement and some shared parking next door if they can demonstrate that that's feasible. The parking requirement for laundry in Southampton is 1 space per machine. So with 65 machines, they would need 65 spaces. They're coming in at 49 spaces as proposed.
Oh, that's pretty under, yeah.
Yeah, could you just orient me? I was on the
Familiar
way uptown,
where
but
Capital One used to be? In Hampton Bays?
Bank.
The bank?
On the north side of the
Yeah, so
street.
this is on the south side, kind of on a slight diagonal. If you look in the aerial,
West of my building.
yeah.
Next to you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
next to
next to
his
me.
building.
But west.
It's not the vacant lot next to you.
The vacant
Yes,
one.
it is.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I'm gonna build it.
You've obtained it already?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll turn it over to the applicant, Lou
No
Puccio. Lou can give you an idea of what they're trying to do there. And we'll get some feedback.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go ahead. Talk about your
Yeah.
presentation.
Well, I went to the neighboring areas, and all the neighboring areas, I would have to do maybe 1 spot for variance for in East Hampton, but other than that,
One spot you mean 1 spot per machine?
to make it work at 65.
Yeah.
And all the other places, I wouldn't have to do anything in the towns, in the other towns.
Yeah, but we're in Southampton.
Right, I understand that. I'm just trying to give you an argument.
So, I mean, I think what Lou's after, we have a pretty heavy parking requirement for laundry with the idea, I don't know what the rationale was when they wrote the code that, 1 single person would go in and use 1 machine at a time. I mean, from what he's included in his materials from industry standards, it's 1 per 4 machines. Generally someone might go and use a couple machines, maybe lights and darks, big stuff and small stuff. In neighboring municipalities, the parking requirements are less.
What are they?
I know in East Hampton, if you look in your packet, he provided 0.75, I believe, in East Hampton Town, Southampton Town. South Old Town. So three-quarters, yeah, three-quarters of a space per machine, generally, and then speaking to the, some kind of shared parking agreement, being that he has got offices next door, he would just have to demonstrate that, these uses aren't happening at the same time, there's not really demand for the office when the laundry's happening, and if he can provide 2/3 on site, that's generally how the board,
How was the grade between the two sites?
there's a significant grade change, if you're
Between-
familiar.
Yeah, because that was all fill.
Correct.
I'm gonna change the vacant land to be almost exact as what mine is. We're retaining walls.
You had to
around
put a
the whole
retaining wall in.
Yes.
Around the whole property, from the back, the sides, up to the front. So that they're gonna be almost exact
So
grade.
you'll be able to connect those lots?
Yeah.
And how is your parking in that other site? Have we taken a look at that? If there's shared parking?
I would say that there should be enough spaces to share between the two, because he's providing more than, what's shown now is more than 2/3 of what the
No,
what the
but I mean
requirement is
his
next
adjoining
door.
property.
Yeah, I mean, Lou would have to demonstrate that the demand for the parking on that site is not going to interfere with the demand for the parking on the laundry.
I can't imagine that it would. I mean, a
Me-
laundromat is in and out, people are there
Yeah, it's a
short
completely
term.
different thing. So I think what Lou's looking for is a little feedback where to start, being that he has an approval already. From my standpoint, and from, speaking to Claire and Janice, he should start at a pre-submission, because this is a different use, different parking
Totally.
requirements. People are going to be in and out of there
Yeah,
more frequently, rather than, the medical offices that he had an approval.
well, let's take it a step at a time. Let's
Sure.
talk about parking.
Yeah.
The parking deficit. I'm not quite sure here. Town of East Hampton is 3/4 of a space per machine.
Yep.
So 2 machines, it's 1.5.
It's calculated on the bottom wall.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
they
he
say machines, do they count the dryer? and
Just the wa-
washer?
just
Just
the
the
washer.
washer.
All you do is wash.
Only the washing machine.
So you're saying, so if you had the same 65 machines, you'd only have, say, 49 spaces. And you are providing,
49.
you're providing 49. So what you're saying is that it's comparable to the East Hampton regs.
And it's way below the other towns.
Yeah.
I mean, way above the other towns.
So you're 16 short by our standard.
Correct.
And there's no legislative intent on this code, our code.
Not that I can see. I tried to see when it came about. I looked back to the other laundromat in Hampton Bays by Barboy, and that parking requirement at the time was one per large machine, and then I think it was a half a space per junior washing machine, but it seems to change to just be one per machine.
And did you check the village, Southampton Village?
Southampton Village is on here, yeah.
They have no.
It's the same, it's the same.
3/4 of a space.
3/4
which
of a
is
space.
less
That's an
than ours.
odd,
Yeah.
that's an odd,
Barboy has not even
con-
close to that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's an
Barboy
odd
was-
calculation.
Shops over there.
3/4 of a car, 3/4 of a space for a full-size car.
He's got 3 or 4 other buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you have enough spaces with, I mean, we'd have to give a variance, I mean, how could we have?
Between the two, there could be a shared parking agreement between the two properties that they would, there'd have to be an
Do you
agreement.
remember how many spaces you have in your office building?
I'm gonna say 34.
And how many of those are used? Do you have how many offices there?
I have the site
I
plan.
have
good.
6.
You have 6
No,
offices,
7.
7 offices, and what do you figure,
Mine.
2 per off?
Yeah.
Not how many people work there.
Uh,
That's a different.
2,
Yeah,
4, 6, 8,
There's 28 as per
Nine.
this.
20.
only 28?
20. Yeah.
I think it's 32.
It could be 34, but this.
Oh,
might
that's
be an
maybe-
updated map.
that was
Yeah,
original.
The original, I know this one had
Yeah,
been.
okay. I would say maybe 14 people, 15 people.
And they're medical offices, so you have.
No, it's just off.
Oh, just
Just
offices.
offices.
He had an approval on this site, which
Okay,
is vacant.
that's where I
for-
heard medical.
For
Right.
medical.
Yeah. So basically, it's just the people who are working there.
No, the in and out is the laundromat,
Well, that's on the next project.
Yeah.
right next to them. So if you're going to level them, the ground, and you would have to enter into a shared parking agreement, could work,
I think so.
Well,
but that means a lot of traffic going through your other site.
Right.
How many spaces are required in the building where he has offices?
Usually 2/3. Oh, what was required for his offices? This is the 2003 approval.
Was it 2003?
Yeah.
Our bill started in 2004. Getting old.
Sure.
Don't remind us, we gotta prove it.
Yeah.
Whalen used to own this property, right? Wasn't this Whalen?
I bought it from him.
Oh, okay.
When he started chipping it, all the chips were hitting my windows, I almost cracking them. So I made a deal to get rid of them.
It's one way to handle it,
Yes.
solve a
I
problem.
think he's at what the requirement was with 28
28
or
spaces.
180. Yeah.
Okay.
So there would be enough. The only issue is, of course, that laundromat is in and out, in and out.
Yeah. So he'd
in and
he'd
out.
have to demonstrate that the demand for the parking is not occurring at the same time as the offices.
Well, what would be the hours of this laundromat?
Probably 22 hours a day.
22 hours a day.
Yeah, that's what most laundromats are.
Do we have any code on laundromats? Nothing.
Nothing specific.
SIC code?
Yeah, it's not a special
Typically,
exception.
they
yeah.
get their most use in the evening.
in the
hours.
evening,
Yeah,
correct? Which
usually.
And
you know,
weekends.
there might be an argument for Mr. Puccio that if it's in the evening, people might not be working in an office in the evening.
Exactly, right.
So it's a good
And
fit for-
weekend.
Good fit to share parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question would be now water usage. How are you handling that?
Well, the machines are very low in water, the new machines.
And what do they take, the new machines?
Well, he would know better than me, he's from the industry.
Basically, the washing machines today use 2/3 less water than traditional washing machines that are found in the house. So there's a substantial savings in water, 25%, and also on electric, which is running more efficient because they're high efficiency machines.
Do you have some numbers, though? How many gallons per machine versus how much flow is on this property? This is what we have to look at.
Absolutely. I
'Cause
mean,
that's one of the biggest impacts.
From what Lou's told me, he's spoken to the health department. It's a feasible operation on this site to have a laundromat in their eyes.
Anybody have any
You have
numbers?
to go to DEC for that,
Yeah,
You have to go to the DEC.
yeah, for the treatment center.
yeah, because it's a self-contained treatment center essentially for the gray water of the laundromat.
So you have to put in a facility,
Yeah.
something,
And there's-
The treatment centers separate the water from the fabrics or the soap,
and where would that be located? In the rear of the property, or?
wherever they want to put it, the DEC. Probably on the side,
External or internal
external, outside of the laundromat.
for water? Have you spoken to them?
I spoke to somebody that does it, and he says it'll take about 4 to 6 months at the minimum.
For the approval.
And your experience with this, with other, do you represent other laundromats?
Yes.
Yeah.
Typically, you have approvals running from 4 to 12 months from the DEC.
Could you identify yourself? I don't think you have.
I'm sorry, my name is Paul Cousins, and I'm from Professional Laundry Systems.
Thank you.
None of your facilities use solar panels? Because, I mean, the dryers are all electric.
No solar panels. It's been done in other areas in the country, but nothing in this area.
Why?
Surprise.
It's just the floor space that it usually takes on the rooftop. You usually don't have enough square footage to put adequate solar panels for anything to keep up with the demand of heating water or electric for that matter.
Well, it wouldn't be one-to-one. You
Yeah.
still have
No,
to
no.
apply
It would
power,
still
but
be a-
But it would help.
Especially in the summer months.
It could be done, and there are systems out there, but it's just not very popular in this area.
Well,
Maybe
you've
the
got
electric
enough,
rates go up, it'll become more popular.
you've got enough, you
But-
have, you have enough roof area to put
Yeah,
solar
but the problem
panels.
is all the vents are going to go straight through the roof,
Oh, the dryer?
of the dryers, all of them,
Oh.
right through the roof, so that takes up.
Each one has a vent?
Yes.
Hmm.
You can't combine them all, because then they can get clogged up and go on fire.
Right,
So they will go straight out the roof. That's the right way to do it, I want to do it the right way,
yeah, you don't want any difficulty.
right?
So that precludes solar.
It makes it.
That's too bad.
almost impossible.
Yeah.
I don't
Something
know
to
that it
consider,
precludes it.
yeah.
It depends. If you cite the dryers on, assuming the south side is going to get more solar power, if you cite the dryers on the north side.
It's a
you
flat
still-
roof. It's a
you
flat
s-
roof.
Okay, but you still have half half the roof, then
Yeah,
that could be solar
the one
panels.
facing the sun, yeah.
The part that's over the washing machines
okay.
could be solar, and
Something to
Good
think about.
point.
Yeah, something to definitely
Good
explore.
point,
I think
Okay.
is
It's your benefit.
What you're hearing.
Okay.
Not something we're gonna mandate, but
Yeah.
Okay.
well, we can't, but it would,
although we should
Makes
be
sense.
mandating.
Should.
yeah.
No, it could make sense.
I mean, it's
sense.
it's a
Especially with the
business
heavy
that's going to
electric piece.
require a lot of energy,
Right,
and electricity's not going to get cheaper.
right.
So it would probably from a business sense, it may make sense if you could look into the siting
I will.
issue
I'll look into it.
and how much the solar panels could accommodate all of your usage, because you're right, it wouldn't be everything.
Yeah.
So what about, where are your mechanicals going to be in this property?
I haven't worked that out yet with the plumbers, so I'm not sure exactly where it's gonna go. I'd be lying to you if I told you that. But I'm gonna have a basement in it, so probably a lot of stuff's gonna go down there.
Okay, because
I would think.
we'd be looking at either concealed mechanicals.
Absolutely, everything, if it's on the roof, it's got to be shielded. If it's on the ground, it's got to be screened.
Right, but we're looking to
That's it.
hopefully try to save sustainable for solar.
Absolutely.
So your experience with the mechanicals where, in these other laundromats, where have they been?
Chicago,
Nothing here in the east?
nothing in New York. Chicago, Arizona, California.
Oh, wow, where they have lots of space,
Yeah, and also the sun is,
better.
better and,
Well, I wouldn't say that about Chicago, but certainly
Well,
Arizona,
yeah.
California, space and,
So you've seen site plans, you know where the mechanicals are situated?
well, generally you have roof units and then you either go to a basement or utility room on the first floor and cycle through there.
Okay, so we'd want to see something like that.
Yeah, at site plan, this is all appropriate stuff that he'd have to show that it, meets town code in terms of
So you recommend pre-submission?
pre-submission, definitely.
It's pretty painless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get everybody pointed in the right direction.
So your sense is that there's a real need for this in Hampton Bays?
There's
then?
nothing.
There's
they're-
nothing.
To me, they're all substandard places, the laundromats. I want to make something nice, like my building. I don't want garbage. And so mine's going to be a more upscale place.
State of
A lot
the
of
art.
folding tables, stainless steel tables, areas to sit down, maybe a coffee machine or something. And if they're not doing the laundry, they're going to have to leave the people. It's not going to be something where people are going to hang out, but I'm going to keep it clean and like my building.
Will there be supervision?
Yeah, a lot.
There'd be a manager there,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Have you seen the new Snow White facility?
Yes.
Well, that's not a laundromat, though. That's dry cleaning.
No, it's not.
No,
Is
it's
it
all
laundromat?
laundromat.
Laundromat,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all a laundromat.
Laundromat.
And they're busy.
Yeah.
There's a need for it,
Parking
for
lot is
sure.
full practically every day.
Yeah,
People from Hampton Bays,
go there.
they go to the one in Riverhead Palace or something.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because they can go
58.
right across,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, when I drive by, I could smell the detergents.
Although I know this is not in the footprint of the Hamlet, downtown Hamlet study.
We can definitely show Lou the pattern book to get ideas in terms of the elevations and what kind of facade treatments we'd like.
Right, well, he has pretty much.
Yeah, they're nice, and we could get something that's.
Well, I only, this is
Yeah, it's
only
just the front.
It's just the
But hardy
front.
plank,
It's a flat roof.
it's tasteful.
though.
It's a flat roof.
That's just a facade, yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the roof is flat, as proposed. But the
Because they can't really do a pitched roof with all those pipes coming out. Better on a flat. So, but I didn't want it to look flat, so I put a facade on it.
Why can't you put the penetration through the pitch?
I
Like the
do.
plumbing?
You can.
Is it just as good as a flat roof? Yeah. Okay. So-
Yeah, so
Well,
you
You're
would have
talking
it
about
all.
three,
Or-
penetrations
or
of
you-
PVC, right? 3-inch PVC?
Well, the vents on the dryers are 8-inch vents.
8-inch metal? Each dryer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could be on half
Yeah.
of the
you could
pitched,
do
and then the other
it's like
pitch,
roof vents.
Would
we
be
could have
so-
solar panels.
But the exposure on the building, I believe, would be
It's
east and
west,
west on the
yeah.
roof.
So the pitch of the roof would be east-west.
And the narrowest part, of course, is facing the south.
Yeah, but the whole west side picks up
Gets
all
sun.
that solar.
Southern,
It gets sun,
it's just not going to be as good.
I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
there are computer programs that can show you how much electricity you can get from solar, depending upon its exact siting with the pitch and everything. I had it done in my house,
Yeah,
so
I don't really know-
I'm
not too
speaking
familiar with
from real knowledge. I didn't think I could be able to do it, because I'm in the woods, and
And
I
you did.
pay $12 a month for my electric, which is the cost of hooking up to the system, even with air conditioning in the summer.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's good.
It's possible.
So you have a full basement?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's gonna be full, because the machines, don't the machines have to have
There'll be,
cross braces?
yeah, there'll be cement columns going through the basement wherever the washing machines are.
So they,
Yeah.
Stop vibrations.
So, it might be half a basement.
So this DEC system, do we know the size of it?
I don't.
It's an underground system though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the ground, you don't see it.
So it pipes out
Yeah.
into,
Into
A recycling
five
scrubbing.
cylinders that have motors on top and separate the fabric and the detergent from the water. And I guess, do you reuse water?
You'll have, really, the only thing you may have interior would be like a pump, for pumping the water back in through a filter and then back out to the leaching field.
so the cleaned water
The cleaned water sounds
goes
like
out
what
to
leaches, yeah.
a leaching field. It's not reused.
Right.
because it has detergents in it, yeah.
Well, they're getting
Detergents have been
detergent out.
cleaned in this,
Right.
that's the purpose of the system.
But I mean, doing the laundry, they're putting
Generally
detergents
not.
in.
The water's not recyclable,
Right.
they're using it, right?
Right.
I guess it's still considered gray water.
Gray water, yeah.
Well, sometimes they use gray water for.
Use it for,
You can use it
for
for
irrigation.
irrigation,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not a bad thought.
So Lou, how are you going to level the ground?
It's
Your
gonna
higher, your new building that you
It's gonna
have
be-
is higher, right? And then this
It's-
is lower?
be- yeah, this is a lot lower. But where the wall is in the back, I put a retaining wall across the back of the property.
Of course, of this one,
Yep.
Matthew?
So it's just
Can we
gonna
see it?
continue around the whole back of the property.
If you see on your site plan, I believe it's shown on the east side.
No, doesn't show anything. Doesn't show anything.
Doesn't show on here, does it?
Concrete wall, right here, on the property line.
That's the one that's existing, yeah. That's
Okay.
the one I put in,
That's the one that you put in here?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the back. And it goes
And it's
all the way-
along the back?
Yeah, it's along the back. But do you have the plans for the medical building?
I do.
Because on that plan, it shows you the retaining wall going around the whole property.
Yeah, so, right on the property line exactly, but you see the heavier, darker line in the back is the retaining wall that goes on each side and. then
Goes around the whole property.
Right, I see.
Because the property to my west is lower than mine.
Even lower, yeah, it does.
It keeps going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
this was an issue for the original proposal, and it involved,
We remember this.
Yeah, condition of
Yeah.
approval was, that fill had to be certified from the DEC
Yeah.
if they were gonna fill the property or retaining walls.
Right.
Yeah, which is all stuff that we can address
So
today.
do you have to bring Phil in, or
Site
you
plan.
help?
No, I think I have enough fill
You have
there.
enough soil?
Move
to-
stuff around. Yeah,
Is it in any kind of an overlay district?
no,
No, it's straight HB.
HB.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So I'm hearing pre-submission.
Okay, but at least you heard us,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
Yeah,
good.
which is good.
Thank you for doing a work session.
Yeah, I wanted to get some information, so when I go to the planning board, there'll be less time wasted.
Planning department or we're the planning board?
Right, well, no, I gotta put an application, right?
Yeah, when
It was already
at the
approved.
formal stage, just so you know what.
Just to get feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is always a
So
good
you're gonna
thing.
put street trees in the front too, aren't you?
Yeah, I did it at my other house.
I know.
I did a pear tree looking,
They look nice.
yeah. I cut them every year, they get massive,
They do,
massive.
yeah.
Every year they grow like 8 feet.
Well, so much of the soil out here is so rich.
I know,
I see you have 2 bathrooms,
yeah. I don't think one's enough.
and they're not in a high priority, so it's just, they're just going
Standard.
to.
Yeah.
It's standard.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? I think we're in a good place.
Any other questions? Good, okay. Lou, good luck. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thanks, Lou.
For coming in.
Oh,
Slide to the right. We have our garbage man back in.
we will deliver you a box.
But we still have the personnel to receive.
You might want to retrieve some of this stuff.
Yeah, no,
You do?
we take it back. It's a process.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem, Lou.
So, closing the work session and going into the afternoon meeting.
Mike's going to do his town board referral with you.
Okay. So let's go to number 9. Amendment to the Town Code, Chapter 330, 292, 325, to require digital submission of applications.
So I was very torn about whether or not to print this resolution, being that this entire resolution is about
It's long.
digitizing. But,
How ironic.
I know, it was a struggle.
Thank you.
Moronic.
So today, we're here to discuss the town board referral to the planning board.
Michael, introduce yourself.
Mike Lieberman, I'm long-range planner in town of Southampton. So the town board referral is a notice of public hearing to consider amending various provisions of Southampton Town Code, including Chapter 330 zoning, 292 subdivisions of land, and 325 wetlands, to require digital submission of particular applications. So I've sent this to you beforehand. I'm here to take your comments. Essentially, this isn't really changing anything. This is more of a phase 1. We recognize that sustainability is obviously something that's very important to us. And it's quite unsustainable to take application after application after application and archive it. And so far, our archive building is 50% land management material, maps. And I have some photographs for you.
Where is it?
It's in Hampton Bays. Now, the before and after of these photographs has been mixed up, but I have a feeling you'll be able to figure out which is which. But over the past couple of years, it's been getting more and more full.
Is
So
this
how
in
do
one
we-
of those trailers?
No, it's,
Below the senior center?
Oh,
Talking about
in
the
the
one that's
basement.
next to the restaurant where the pavilion is, the gazebo and everything, that also stores.
I'm not
I think it used
sure.
to be, the CPF was in that building, and their basement was used for.
I'm only familiar with the senior center basement. Yeah. And so this phase 1 idea is that, yes, we're going to continue to require paper submissions, but in the future, we'll also now require digital submissions, with the future being more digital and less paper. And we recognize that there are going to be some technological adaptation requirements. I've spoken to the town clerk, and we've discussed other ideas that might utilize a smart board where you can review these plans. And of course, maybe you'll be able to keep your tablets because it's good for literature and the narrative. But when you're working with a plan, I understand it is quite difficult with your tablet to review.
Site plans are
Yeah,
hard.
so,
very hard.
and we see that. So we don't want the archived documents, and you don't necessarily want to interact with the iPad to review them. So we see that there's a problem here, then we're bringing you in to be a part of the solution. And believe it or not, and I guess there's a reason why I'm here, the sustainability plan actually references this. And if you don't mind, I will read it. While it's not in your resolution, it is part of our waste portion, which is 008, paper waste. Further reduce paper use by the town through increased use of electronic technology for communications, applications, and permits, FRPs, bids, maps, meeting notices, and agendas, secra, environmental review, etc. And that's why I'm here.
I would definitely include that in the legislative intent of the document.
Yeah,
Well,
'cause
in our
that's-
report to the town
Yeah.
board, that's a good opportunity to cite that section.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, that's part of the
key.
master plan, so it-
Absolutely.
So put it right in there, right in the legislative intent.
Well, in our comments.
Yeah, and it also should be in the legislative
the
intent.
comment is
That's
that
there.
Yeah,
put it
our
in
comments,
legislative
that
intent.
should
Yeah,
be-
yes, our comments.
Yeah.
Got it. Is there any, I'm just trying to think of if you, at one point, would want to phase out the actual paper site plans.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be, if we had electronic mechanisms, if we had two big screens, not up there, I mean, these are extremely high.
No,
Where it could
that is the
be-
plan.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm phrasing it as a phase one.
Yeah.
The amount of phases will partially depend on you and the planners and how we all interact with one another and try to
Right.
figure out a way to review this material. But the technology has improved greatly in the past decade, where we do have smart boards. There are now podium boards, where a planner could interact with the podium digitally, and then you'd actually be able to see their comments and your amendments, and then save the document. So this could all be streamlined, as well as accessing archive material is now a touch of a button, rather than them physically going to Hampton Bays and
Driving to
delivering
Hampton
it
Bays,
here.
yeah.
So the hope is to streamline the process, and it's the right direction, but it's also out of necessity. This is unsustainable. We just can't continue to bring.
Are we looking at the paper coming in though also?
Yes,
The application itself?
yeah.
Well, all of that widget, we could want to get rid of it on one end, but we have to bring it all in.
No, the idea.
Yeah, it's-
they would
we're going to begin-
submit it to- Right now, the amendment is to suggest that they have to submit it digitally as well as paper. And then eventually the paper.
Phase out the paper.
Will go away, and the digital submission will have to be based on our criteria.
Correct.
But I guess some requirements for an application, that's junk coming in.
Yes. Well, we'll have to amend.
I mean, maybe you don't need 10 copies of an application for something.
Well, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And when digital, we won't, because we'll be able to circulate it among certain departments digitally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to, and that's something that's the town clerk mentioned to me, is many of the maps that are in the archived area are mislabeled. And someone comes across a copy, and then they're like, well, we don't know if it's archived or not. So they archive the copy. And it could be 5 years after someone's cleared their desk and is no longer an elected official here. Everyone knows that what they get is, or seems to think that what they receive is an original draft, which of course, we're all working with copies of copies of copies. So this will definitely address a lot of different aspects, and what a better way to lead by example when it comes to sustainability and just overhearing your previous interaction with the applicant. Sustainability is obviously always on our agenda.
so are you going to give very clear requirements to the applicant, so they're not just scanning a document and sending it to you, or so that it's not
Well, if-
readable? You have requirements?
As the law currently reads, it must be, this will be determined by the town clerk, so it won't be me doing that. But the town clerk will be in a format determined, and it has to be of equal caliber to the paper submission. So whatever that is. And I think they're leaving that somewhat ambiguous so that they can, find that appropriate
And as technology
process.
changes.
And
Yeah,
it
to
could be
upgrade the
diff-
standards.
It could be different for each application, so
Right.
that's why it's phrased that way, so that there's an opportunity for the town clerk to work with each department, with Jenna Scher as the head of land management, and then also with each board and department to figure out what's appropriate for that board in that application.
So this will be true for the building department as well?
That's
For
the end-
individual,
The end goal. is
Yes,
that,
I drafted the law, there's 13 different sections of the town code that this addresses. I mean,
so 13 different departments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Change of zone applications,
And
standard
who-
site plans.
Who handles the master computer, the master list of everything?
The
Where
town
does that
clerk.
reside?
Town clerk is your New York State Records Management Officer. And archives.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, she's been digitalizing a lot of old stuff.
Right, and that's why they have to default to us, though, because we're the ones interacting with these documents, and they need to know how we need to interact with them.
Can so then we can easily cross-reference? I mean, the building department can check in with planning to make sure that on the site plan, XYZ is on there, because that's always been a problem.
Well, that's maybe a comment that we can consider.
I know my
So
first.
it's cross-access of documents.
Yes. I mean, I know what my first thought was when we see stuff on our iPad, any kind of map and sort of site plan kind of stuff, it's almost impossible to read. It's usually too small, it's poor quality, it's sideways, so then you try to turn your computer, and it's still sideways. So clearly, our ability to access it, which you've already articulated, is something that's really important.
Needs to be
That we can
improved.
see it in a way that we can see it.
I don't know how, but Anthony, how do the planners do it now? Do you just scan stuff in How do you,
Yeah.
you scan it through that system? What's it called? The system?
Go,
Get the PDF,
Yeah.
and we.
they'll reattach everything goes
Minitrack?
through Minitrack,
Minitrack.
Yeah.
so we just scan everything.
So you scan it?
Yeah.
Minitrack doesn't determine the quality, it's
No,
the
it just,
scan.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's,
So we're not gonna, this is not gonna be that. Because that's tough to see, to read.
I don't know if there are any plans for updating our scanners, but I imagine there will be more time spent making sure that it's done
Maybe you
appropriately.
could just make a note of
Sure.
that.
You want that in a question form, or?
well, I think we're
You
articulating
have to
the need to be
coordinate
able
it.
to,
To coordinate Minitrack with, is it called Minitrack?
Yep.
Yeah. With a new digital format, has to interface in some way.
Gotcha.
Okay. Do we have any other comments?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad you're making the
So we're going to
effort.
incorporate that the master plan language into legislate. That's going to be our,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's number one, and then 2 and 3.
and the trees and twigs, thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Good.
should we adopt the resolution?
Not at this
You-
time, right?
Not this
No,
time.
right.
Actually, no, the written record is open only until March 5th, I believe, so I do think you should take that action.
So we could adopt this
Okay.
as our report with those two
Right,
comments.
you'll
right?
make the language.
Yep, okay.
Okay,
I'll move it.
moved by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Anthony, do you want to be on? Is that
We're going to start off at number 7. I have an applicant here.
Number 7?
number 7, Setauket 5?
CTUC 5.
Oh, Seatuck, right, not Setauket.
That's down further west.
Right.
So I'm giving out a copy of the report, the resolution, and, the aerial map. No. I realize that. Yeah. Resolution comes down to?
Do we need a big site plan on this, or we'll be able to see this? Yeah,
Yeah, that should be,
yeah, it should be
Yep.
sufficient.
and all the resolutions should also be on the iPads. So this is CTUC 5, this is the Eastport Marina. It's on South Bay Avenue in Eastport. Zoned resort waterfront business. There's an existing marina use on the property. It's actually a marina and a boatyard use, I should say. And I'm actually just taking this from the staff report. We had a pre-submission conference on March 22nd, 2018. No comments were received during the pre-submission conference or during the 30-day written comment period. The project is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 157 of the Town Code, and a negative declaration was issued by the Planning Board by resolution dated December 19, 2019. Incidentally, this is, I didn't say this, the application is for the construction of a 5,600 square foot service building for the marina use, for the servicing of boats, I believe sales also, and anything associated with marina. It also includes the construction of a one-story dry snack shop that's shown on the site plan closer to the water. And there'll also be new dock lighting as well as part of the project.
When I read this earlier this week, the idea of a dry snack shop, there's be no water of any kind, so there'll be no place to wash your hands or anything.
Well, he's, and Sean's going to address that
Okay.
when we get to that point, but I believe there are other on-site facilities, if I understand, but Sean will go through that when he comes up here. So we made referrals to the various agencies. The town engineer gave comments dated November 22nd, and there's 7 comments, very minor map changes that are needed, and they did recommend engineering approval. On page 3 of the report, the New York State DEC issued a letter on January 13th indicating that a tidal wetlands permit may be required for the project. So they'll have to submit a jurisdictional request with the New York State DEC. It's bulkheaded, and typically bulkheaded properties are not subject to tidal wetlands under the New York State DEC, so they could just submit a request for a non-jurisdiction. The Town Conservation Board came back with some comments. They noted the properties located within the town's high priority quality improvement zone. So the septic system associated with the 5,600 square foot building will have to be the new IA system. They noted that the sales building is located outside of the town's wetlands jurisdiction, but they indicated that the gazebo demolition, the snack shack, and the dock lighting all require a wetlands permit. In fact, the demolition of the gazebo and the dock lighting do require a wetlands permit, and the wetlands approval was written like that. The snack shop is at the 50-foot setback, which is not within the jurisdiction of wetlands, actually. The jurisdictional limit is less than 50 feet on a bulkheaded property, so.
Say that again?
Jurisdiction for a wetlands permit on bulkheaded property. The construction can't be less than 50 feet from the bulkhead, otherwise it requires a wetlands permit. So if you're at 50 feet or greater, it doesn't require a wetlands permit under the town. So that's why only the demolition of the gazebo and the dock lighting require a wetlands permit, because they are less than 50 feet from the bulkhead. Number 3, to your point, Glorian, about the dry retail use, clarification is needed as to whether or not the snack shack will have any running water for hand washing and or employee bathrooms. If so, the water supply and sewage disposal system needs to be depicted on a revised site plan. So we are aware of that particular issue. And as I already said, the property is within the high priority quality improvement zone, so the new IA system is required for the new building. The Town Office of Fire Prevention came back with comments indicating everything seems to be in order and that they would do additional fire service and safety concerns during the formal building plans review process. And that's what happens. We do a referral. They let us know if there's sufficient firefighting, water, hydrants, that sort of thing. And then they look more at building design during the building permit process. So the fire marshal has 2 shots at reviewing an application.
Are there hydrants
Yes, there's
on South Bay Avenue?
the area is served by public service water mains and fire hydrants. Yep. The Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning deemed the application to be a matter of a local determination. The ARB approved the design of the building at their meeting on January 7th, 2020. We had worked with the applicant. It is a Morton building, but they did a pretty good design on all sides.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Like the garage door.
Yeah, they did nice with
Alexis,
the garage
honestly,
doors.
you don't
It
see
adds
it.
something
Breaks
to the
the whole
building.
thing up.
So it came up,
Is this the architect sitting there?
yes. Southampton Chief Building Inspector, I grade this out because I have to get the date of that letter. On the site plan, there had been a question that I raised about the side and front setbacks for the boat storage. We raised the question of whether or not they were subject to a 50-foot setback. And they went and they got a determination from Mike that they have pre-existing setbacks for the boatyard.
It's right on the road.
Yeah, so it's right on the road, but we are going to get the 20-foot buffer that will be substantially planted as a result, which will be a new feature for the site, so I think that's good.
That's helpful, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely good.
All the way, just the same configuration as it's
Yeah,
indicated?
yeah, so that way on the side too, because there are residents
Yeah.
all around here, so.
Now, are these boat storage racks Pyrex?
No, there's are they, there's no racks.
No
actually,
Rex.
So.
Okay.
So that was from the bill, so the remaining site plan issues, the first part there says the site plan must provide the setback to the proposed snack shack. That's actually on the site plan, so we don't need that anymore. I didn't realize they revised it to show the setback. 2, provide the buffer planting details on the site plan or as a separate plan pursuant to the normal submission requirements for a landscaping plan. 3, show pedestrian access to the building. 4, show all existing and proposed dumpster areas and provide enclosure details. 5, with respect to the pump-out station, the prior site plan approval in 2013 required spill containment and the approximate frequency in which pump-out holding tank will be emptied to be included as part of that site plan. So I'm saying that the applicant should submit that as part of this site plan as well. So we always have it on the most current site plan, what the,
Does it need DEC approved, those pump-out stations?
and I'm assuming that, because they were approved and installed per a previous site plan here. At that time, they should have required a DEC permit.
Well, we
I
need to
could
check
look,
that.
I could
Yeah.
look into it for you,
Yeah.
if we could do that. 6 has to do with the parking calculations. It's a very long-winded statement. That really goes into, when you're dealing with marinas, you deal with seasonal parking, and the code really accounts for that with marinas. So I was putting that in there, but they just need to really show the parking calculations on the plan. They were on there previously, and the numbers were okay, so that was good. In terms of lighting, it's hard to, I just put in the general lighting standards about being downward and not illuminating onto adjacent properties, the mounting height to be 10 feet from natural grade, and the lighting plan to demonstrate that the correlated color temperature does not exceed 3,000 Kelvin. I put those in there. It's hard to tell on the lighting plan if they meet those requirements, so they just need to be clarified. They were a little unclear, but I think they show the lighting at no higher than 10 feet, as a matter of fact, so they should be good over there. And then with that, I have a resolution that basically mimics those conditions that we just went
Just
through.
a couple of questions. So we don't know about the parking?
We know, that we did, there was, I think the layer came off maybe during the site plan review process. There had been parking calculations on there previously that were accurate to the project. They were just removed, maybe during the process, the layer came off, and I'm just asking that they really put them back on the plan, because they need to be on the site plan.
I'm trying to think, Dan, is that site plan that we did on Noyak Road, the one that went on and on forever and ever?
Oh, the Mill Creek Marina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that we need to have here that we looked at, that was such a mess.
No, that was a lot more extensive. They were doing docks. They were,
Docks, right.
Drainage, everything else.
There's no rebuilding of docks here?
No, nothing like that.
Do we have a?
And you'll find that most of the parking calculations are going to be based on the existing conditions, because it's based on number of slips. So the parking is largely based on the existing conditions of the site, which is based on the number of slips, which aren't changing in this case.
And do we have a number on the storage?
We don't, I don't
Can they
think.
provide that,
Yes.
the maximum number? Because according to the aerial here, you have not only all of the storage along that, and you should say 20-foot buffer, Anthony, in your
Yes.
language. But then you have a middle row of storage in addition. So,
Yes, we should get some type of, number of boat storage.
something,
It's hard to, with the the interpretation from Mike is that they had boat storage sitting there, it didn't speak to a number. But
well,
we
let's
could
just get a dimension then,
Yes,
100 feet by so many feet is boat storage. Yeah.
There's no way to determine the number of boats, because you
Yeah,
may have one
because they're
boat
different
that's 16
sizes,
feet with a
right.
6-foot beam, and somebody
Right.
25 feet with an 8-foot beam, or a
Right.
30 with a 10-foot beam, so.
Better to have
what
an
the
overall.
chairperson said is correct. We're interested in the total square footage.
Right,
And then you can accommodate what you're accommodating.
right. And then that overflow area in the middle, because says existing parking on the grass to retain, but it doesn't show that that's actually what you're putting boat storage there, because this shows boat storage.
Gotcha.
And is there enough depth there for an IA system? I mean, how far are you to groundwater here?
Yes, so in fact, we're. Sean Leonard, the architect for the applicant. So, yeah, where the building is being placed, we're up at elevation 10, so we have plenty of depth to groundwater for an IA. It'll be a shallow system anyway, like most of them are down in that area. But the IA system is just for the new building, which is a service building. So it's not going to require a large water capacity.
And what about the existing office building? Can you tie that in some way to the IA system?
We can look into that,
Could you?
yes.
Yeah.
And-
Particularly in a location like this, you're right on the water.
Sure.
It just has a conventional septic now, right?
It has a convention, you're right, correct. And then to answer the earlier question about the snack bar, right now it's intended to be just more or less prepackaged sandwiches and drinks, things like that. So it's not anything that requires any water. So they're not making anything there, not making sandwiches or anything like that in the facility. So it'd be no different than like going into, I guess like a 7-Eleven or something like that, and you were buying a sandwich. So at the moment, just to kind of accommodate the width.
So you're going to add all of those things in, Anthony?
Oh, yes. For sure. So I have a resolution. It should be on iPads or,
That's on the iPad.
which basically would,
You don't have,
It's on the iPad.
It's in the paper, too.
In the
This
paper?
paper represents the iPad.
so the first resolve is for the wetlands permit for the demolition of the existing gazebo, installation of the new dock lighting. The permit conditions, 1 through 10 there, are all general permit conditions associated with every wetlands permit. There's nothing specific here, like a buffer requirement or anything like that. If you were dealing with a typical freshwater or tidal wetland situation, we'd be talking about buffers, but we don't do that on bulkheaded properties that don't have any upland vegetation. So they're all just general. And then the special conditions of the permit, all construction shall strictly conform to the final revised plan stamped by the planning board as the approved plan. And then the second resolve is for the site plan application, and that's for the restoration to the existing one-story frame building, which was work that was already done some time ago. We included it in here to make sure everything was legalized properly. Construction of approximately 5,600 square foot building for marine sales and service, and construction of a one-story snack shop, along with dock lighting.
what's the size of it? What's the size of the snack shop?
The snack shop is...
Let's put that in.
250 square feet? Oh, yeah, 240.
140 square feet, I'll put it in.
Sure. So let me add that in there, 240 square foot snack shop. Okay, subject to the following conditions. He would clarified about the dry retail. I was just noting that if there was any required water or sewage disposal, that'd be shown in the site plan. But at this point, doesn't seem to be any. B.
Do we want to say anything about tying in the other system?
Sure. Here, B says the new building is subject to the new IA system, and we should put in there then that,
The existing regular septic can be tied into the new system, new IA system.
I mean, I think that at least sort of that's the the intent of the law. When you do a major renovation, you have to upgrade
Sure.
the system, and this is a fairly major renovation with this whole new building.
Sure.
So,
C, provide the buffer planting details in the site plan or as a separate plan, and I think, to your point, Jackie, 4, the required 20-foot,
20-foot, yeah.
and that's in the front and sides, on side, I should say. D, show pedestrian access to the building. E, show all existing and proposed dumpster areas and provide enclosure details. F, as regards to the information regarding the pump-out station and the frequency which pump-out will take place. Again, this was previously requested as part of a site plan, and I just think it's clean to have it on a subsequent site plan, so the record is clear there.
You want DEC too, you want.
Oh, yep,
DEC,
and I will look into New York State.
whether it had a DEC permit that's still existing, still functioning.
Good. And G has to do with the parking calculations being shown on the plan. Again, there won't be many changes to that because they're not doing any new boat slips or anything like that, so the parking will be largely the existing conditions.
You want boat storage calculations.
Oh,
right?
that's right, yep. So we're going to add boat storage
Make it
area.
H, right?
calculations, yep.
Not the number of boats, but the overall size,
That works.
square footage.
They're gonna add.
And then changes to the lighting plan. All lighting shall be downward and shall not illuminate onto adjacent properties or roadways, and the use of dusk to dawn lighting fixtures is prohibited. B has to do with the mounting height being set at 10 feet. And C has to do with the correlated color temperature not exceeding 3,000 Kelvin.
Is there any signage
No new signage, as far as I could tell. Was any new signage proposed?
on this building?
But there will be a general condition in there. Under the next one there, you'll see all signage is subject to planning board approval. Screening of any HVAC mechanical systems, and then the prohibition of the, we don't need to, well, no, we do have to keep saying that. In the general conditions, the installation or use of dusk to dawn lighting fixtures is prohibited. No additional lighting on the property without planning board approval. All lighting shall be shielded and projected downward. Attain the required permit from the town highway department. And G, arrange for a pre-construction meeting with the engineering division. I have to add to that, by the way, compliance with the town engineer's comments. I put that in the changes to the site plan. I'll add an I for engineering. It was just a couple of minor changes. Work to be completed prior to signature, well, that's in there, compliance with the requirements of the town engineer. The current landowner shall file a notarized affidavit indicating compliance with the conditions of site plan approval, and then submission of 6 complete sets for signature, and then prior to the issuance of a CO would be a maintenance bond having a term of 2 years, which shall be based on a third of the costs, estimated cost to do the plantings.
Sean, do you want to add anything to this? No, you're okay?
I'll move it.
Okay, motion by Dennis,
second.
second by Zuccarelli.
Item by one vowel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. We're gonna still go to two, I have Old Stables at Spionk on twice, so we gotta do number 10 first, which is the secret.
Okay, number 10.
Number 10 first.
Number 10,
Yep.
Old Stables.
Give us a little background, Anthony.
I screwed up. It's an extra one. Two, I'm okay.
It's an extra one.
Extra one? Extra.
Number 10.
It's the famous Joe Gaza.
More like the infamous Joe.
I don't know.
So this is Old Stables at Spionk. This is on North Phillips Avenue in Spionk. This project's been around for 15 years now, so it's been around for some time. Various.
Goes back to Dennis's era.
Exactly. The application is for a density incentive 9-lot subdivision. I think the map there will show you. I believe the zoning was R40. It had a yield of 6 lots. With the density incentive provision, gives them additional 3 lots for a total of 9 lots, with the requirement that they provide at least 2 as affordable housing. In this case, we're getting 3 additional density lots as affordable housing. So it'll be 6 market rate and 3 affordable lots. 25% open space. That open space in the back, there's other open space in and around the area, consistent with, what we're doing in the rear there. There's probably 2 other lots that are going to be somewhat problematic in filling in the gap, but we put in place at least our open space, so we have it there. Because there is town open space in and around the area.
So there was no consideration to, instead of putting it where it is, to create some buffers on either side of this property? Because you have adjoining neighbors on both sides.
We do.
And the lots are too small to put
Yeah,
in
they are,
buffers.
they are pretty small. The
The open space part goes up to this whole square piece along the back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Look, but you got houses.
But it starts all the way up here. You have,
That's what we wanted, that green belt?
yeah,
Just the green
you have
belt
a
thing?
big, it's consistent with our open space.
Yeah, that we've been doing in the other subdivision.
This is that green
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, yeah. With your packet there, you should have the EAF Part 2 and 3 that we did. So the first part of this is to do the secra.
Any overlay districts here?
There are no, it was archaeological sensitive area, and there was an archaeological report that was done,
1A and B?
1A and B. It's always 1A and B when we do
Yes.
first part.
Are we doing Spionk Plume advisory covenants of these lots?
Yes, we should.
Yes, we will. When we're done with this, this is just a completeness review. So we're not, it's not like we have a resolution of approval on or anything like that, so,
So
No,
right
but
now,
you-
it's
but you're doing
it's a type
secret.
1 action.
yeah.
So you
Type
do,
1?
It's an unlisted action.
Unlisted.
so you want to mention that? at
Yeah,
least?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And
So,
maybe you do, okay.
I don't know that I do, but let's, the EAF forms that they give us to work with are pretty,
Well, you can, you can have the power to adjust them accordingly.
yeah,
to
no,
the community.
you could add additional information.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question. I'm just saying, the forms that they give us, if you actually read through them, aren't that great, to be quite honest, yeah. When you look at
And
them.
I've talked to the department for a long time saying, customize them to our community.
Yeah. We could probably make up our own environmental assessment
Jack and
form.
I've talked about it, yeah, make up our own.
So far, we're relying on, these, but, the impact on land, I said yes, that there would be some impacts, obviously. The construction of 9 single-family houses will have an impact on land. Based on the criteria of the environmental assessment form, those impacts, I say, will be small, but they will exist. So you can't say that there would be no impacts as a result of this. There will be some impacts. Impacts on geological features, there were no such geological features on the property, so that was a no. Impacts on surface waters, this is not an area located near surface waters, so that was a no. Impact on groundwater, there was a yes, again, small to impact 9 single-family residences with septic systems inevitably
This isn't in the high priority area.
It is not in the high priority area.
Is it serviced by county water?
It is serviced by county water.
Is this the place to put the plume notification in?
Yes, I think that you're right.
Anthony, I'm just curious, because I don't know the area. What is that strange gray-shaped area over
That's a
here?
that's a railroad yard for the beyond.
Is this the railroad yard?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's near the
Yeah.
railroad station.
And then
There's a big
there's,
junkyard right after
and
that.
there's a junkyard to
Yeah.
the east of it?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Remember we did the radio
Yeah,
tower
yeah.
right in the
Yeah,
middle of
yeah,
that
yeah.
junkyard?
Yeah.
So we'll add a comment about the plume and notification in this part. 5, impacts on flooding. The property's not within a flooding area or part of the flood zone, so there wouldn't be any impacts there. Impacts on air, I said no. Impacts on plants and animals, I said yes. Again, with the loss of some vegetation, there would be some impacts. We somewhat mitigated by providing open space there. So, that balancing act. Impacts on agricultural resources were no, this is not an ag piece or within an ag district. Impact on aesthetic resources, I said no. If you've been down there, it's not a big vista into the property or anything like that. Impacts on historic or archaeological resources, I did say no here. That was based on the archaeological phase 1A and 1B that was done.
But you say that, in an explanation, you say that,
The part 3,
part 3.
which I have here. Yeah, in part 3, where I give my rationale for the decision, I do mention the archaeological report
I see. Who did that, Tracker?
tracker. So, impacts on open space and recreation, I said no. Again, this is an open space cluster plan, so we are getting the minimum amount of open space that's required. Impacts on critical environmental areas, I said no. This was in critical environmental impact area. Impacts on transportation, I said yes. Again, any development, whether it's 1 lot or 50 lots, is going to have some impact on transportation. I think there would be small impacts, but there will be impacts nevertheless. Impacts on energy, again, yes. It's only 9 new houses, but that would have some impact on energy usage. Impacts on noise, odor, and light. I didn't come up with anything based on the criteria that they give us. Impact on human health, no anticipated impacts as a result of the subdivision. Consistency with community plans. Said the project was consistent with community plans. It's consistent with the zoning requirements and the density incentive provisions of the subdivision regulations, and consistent with.
Anthony, excuse me, can you also add the plume under health?
Sure,
Do it in both places?
yes. And I'll change that to yes.
Which one is that, Anthony?
Number
16.
And then if you would, add that into your part 3.
100%. Yes, I'll add the plume notification in the part 3 as well. And then consistency with community character. It appears to be a single-family residential neighborhoods largely in this area, so I said the pattern is consistent with that. And so with that, I would recommend a negative declaration for this project.
Any other questions?
Motion for a neg deck?
Motion for a neg deck by Dennis, second by Glorian. All in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then, I forgot where else it's on the agenda, number,
It's early.
For completeness?
for completeness.
3,
3?
3.
3. So I would recommend deeming this application complete and schedule the hearing for March 26th.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Zuccarelli. All in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. What did you say, March?
March 26th.
But he said 6.
26.
6.
26.
And Kathleen, the Shinnecock Nation will get notification on this?
Is it in the?
It is archaeological.
Yes, then absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just one more, RJS. See that on there, what number is that?
Number 4?
Number 4, RJS, this is the AutoZone application, and they're just looking for their first extension.
The auto zone going into the bank, the old bank,
The old bank, that's right.
Hampton Bays.
Yep. So it would be an extension from, for submission of the final maps from February 12th, 2020 until May 12th, 2020.
May 12.
It's the first, I think I put in there, first.
Motion by Phil, second by
Me.
Gloria. All in favor?
Second.
Second by me.
It should-
All in favor?
Aye.
I was just thinking it should be John, 'cause he's always the one. Oh, no, you
No, it
are
was
actually.
Phil.
Phil's always the one with the extensions.
Okay, let me finish the vote. 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Sorry.
Jackie, you up?
Oh, Anthony?
What's up?
Where do you want to go, Jackie?
How are you? I actually am going to go in order just because I've only 3 here, but I have 2 applicants here.
Okay.
So we'll end with the Gazas. But first I have 45.
appropriate.
45 Fanning
Needs our
Avenue.
finishing act.
Fanning Avenue.
Takes a bow and then we're done, we adjourn.
We think.
I don't know, he's got all kinds of whiteboards there. We may be here for a
Oh,
long
boy.
time.
Okay.
So you did previously review this on August 22nd, 2019. This is a 2-lot subdivision that's proposed. These were 2 historic lots that are kind of like a L shape that were merged previously. So they have acquired the right-of-way to the north, which that gives them enough to just squeak out 2 additional conforming 20,000 square foot lots. So I reviewed all the information. I did ask them to do a lot of investigation of the right-of-way, just to make sure, like, who has rights to it, even though they bought it, making sure that we wouldn't be preventing
this is,
anyone who does have rights to it. So they did give us a lot of history on that, which I will review with Kathleen
Do you
at a
have a
later date.
map at all on this, Jackie?
but
Just-
it's-
we just-
It's in the cart.
Oh, it's on the.
Oh, no, actually, sorry, I didn't. I
No,
have it
it's right here, but I,
No, no, she has.
I have reduced, sorry.
It's on your laptop.
You don't have to.
Oh, yeah.
It's a strange lot.
That is a strange.
So they did research, and they did get all the information and deeds and pertinent information related to the right-of-way, as well as some map amendments that I had requested. So I am recommending that we waive the cluster plan because it's all developed in the vicinity, and that we deem it complete and schedule a hearing for March 26th.
This is the yellow framed piece, that odd shaped piece.
as opposed to the red,
The L-shaped piece?
no, it's
I mean,
it's the red
It's
piece.
the
No,
red
it's the
piece.
red.
Oh, it's the red,
It's
it's
the
not
red.
this.
It's
Okay.
the red, sorry, yeah.
The boomerang.
They also
Yeah,
own the
that's-
right-of-way.
Because that's
to the
in
north.
play as well, that
But that's the
little
town of
piece.
Southampton.
That's a town
Oh, that's-
recharge parcel.
Okay.
What's in the play as well is that skinny piece just to the, in between the red and the yellow, which is a 10-foot right-of-way.
Oh, okay.
So that was the one, though, it used to go all the way to Gravel Hill Road. So I was just concerned, like, who has rights to that?
Right.
Because they're proposing to essentially merge it into the lots and create it almost as a flag lot. So I wanted to make sure that we weren't extinguishing anyone's historic rights to it. So we do have a lot of information that they have provided with us. I did review it, and, you know, they've provided a lot of information and deeds and historic information on that. So I will give that to Kathleen to review before the public hearing.
So they're going to access that wooded lot from this 10-foot.
That is the proposal at this point, yes. Yeah, and then there's a rendering of the overall development plan. I do have additional plans in the package. They do show like the development, but as of now, this is just reviewing and deeming complete for a 2-lot subdivision. And March 26th would be the hearing date.
So you have everything you need. Okay, for completion and setting a date, motion by Phil, second by
Second.
Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so it's complete, and a public hearing for March 26th.
Yes. Just 6 yes, 1 absent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, didn't take a, didn't complete
Sorry, I was
that.
just
I'm too
counting.
busy shuffling paper.
6 in favor, 1 absent.
You have to shuffle digitally.
Yeah, right. Push a screen.
Okay, and next I would like to go to agenda item number 5, which is the pre-application report for the estate of Madeline Cuomo. Okay, so this is on for the adoption of the pre-application report, and I'm sorry, I was out a couple days last week, so I didn't get to attach this before the Friday deadline. But you have looked at this before. This had previous pre-application reports that were adopted in 2012, and they have resubmitted since it sat for so many years. There is now a new owner, so it is essentially a reconfiguration of the 4 lots that were existing, and this was the old location of one of the nightclubs. I forget the actual name.
Cave.
Yeah, the Cave.
Cave.
Yes, yes. I almost said
Great
the
pizza.
Cove. Great pizza. Okay. So in the first page, it's just really the site description, and I'm letting you know what lot sizes they were previously under the tax map numbers, and then the proposed lot numbers. And essentially, all of the properties are essentially getting bigger, with the exception of lot number 2, which is going down in size, but that has received a variance for the 15,283 square feet.
So each lot is a different, I mean, the configuration of this.
It is a different configuration on this,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm. So if you'll see like the road frontage lot on your aerial, that actually was like all of Montauk Highway. There are now going to be 2 lots to the north and then essentially 2 lots to the south going laterally. And that's in your packet if you want.
Where did they get the additional square footage? Where did they get the additional?
Oh, some of the lots were in excess of zoning. So this lot was in excess of zoning, and I think this lot.
Because the original map was 4 lots of like 10,000 or 12,000 square foot each, right?
Some were smaller, but some were bigger. So what they've done is they've shifted the land area around. So I don't have an aerial, actually.
No, we have the aerial right here.
Yeah. So, sorry. So this road fronting lot was in excess of 20,000, and this one was as well.
So the aerial is the old configuration, this is the new.
This is the no. So there was
So
no.
they shouldn't match.
No cluster provision on this?
It's all residentially developed within the vicinity, and there's roads on 3 sides. So we did, during the previous pre-application report, we did look at the fact that there is existing wooded portion to the very south. Essentially, with the reconfiguration, though, they're all becoming more conforming, except for the one that received the variance, which is the one at the northwest corner of the subject property.
They got a variance for what, lot size?
Lot size from 20,000 down to 15,284 square feet.
Now, these 2 roads are listed as town roads, but they're not improved to town standards.
I believe they're private roads.
Well, the survey says town road.
Oh, sorry.
I
Yeah,
thought they were-
they are not.
They're not,
They're not, they're private.
They're private. They're not town roads.
Yeah. We did recommend 280A, and Dennis, actually, we will get to that. You did have concerns and wanted to see Ocean Ave improved as a result of this.
I think so, yeah.
And then
was
288.
that the original that showed, the original Madeline Cuomo map improved ocean, right?
No, the original, we were just going to do 280A, although I think it is a valid point that you brought up at the hearing because of the encroachment of the road. And I'm actually going to ask the applicant to talk to her clients and look at doing some improvements to the road. They are going to propose a water main, so if they put in the water main, that always rips up a road. I also would like to get the easement just shifted down a little bit so that we aren't dealing, and we're asking for an easement and a future offer of dedication. I don't want to put them in a situation where when the offer might be received and accepted by the town, that they'll have a non-conforming lot area.
How
So
much
that
of an offer are
lot,
we asking? How much of an offer are we asking?
I'm hoping to get it and squeeze it into the area that they actually are over. So that lot, that has that really pointy portion in the northeast, they are 22,197 square feet. So I'm hoping that we can encompass the easement in the excess of the 2,197 square feet. So we can essentially still let the road go over that really sharp point, but maybe we can take off some of the pavement of the existing historic private right-of-way as it gets really narrow to the bottom, and also just round it. And you'll also see that is a gas easement. So we want to make sure that gas easement that serves the residents on Ocean Ave gets included in that easement and offer of dedication.
This is a very complicated site plan to read.
Well, it has houses on it, so it just
Really
makes
busy.
it.
Yeah,
It's hard to
I
read.
need it much larger in order for me to actually make sense out of
If you
it.
want, I can get you
Yeah,
There's way too many little dots and words.
it's very complicated.
There you go.
Is that house gonna remain? No.
There's no houses on site.
Oh, this side.
So the driveways that are coming in, you have one driveway coming in from Seashore. Yeah,
Yes, we asked them to show the driveways because we're not permitting any new driveways, and we're asking for removal of the asphalt and aprons on Montauk Highway.
okay, so there are no driveways on Montauk here?
There used to be, the nightclub used to be accessed via Montauk Highway with a parking lot. We are asking that those aprons and any remnants of that be removed, and then all new driveways will go on either Seashore Avenue or Ocean Avenue.
So you have a proposed driveway
Here.
for Lot 2 here, and lots 4.
Yeah, so there's essentially going to be 2 driveways off of Seashore Avenue and 2 driveways off of Ocean.
Yeah, and here, yeah. So Montauk gets closed off.
Yes, and we've asked them to provide street trees along the northern boundary of that to soften the impact of new houses and to provide for community aesthetics.
It also make the people who have those lots have a little more privacy.
Yeah, a little protection also from some of the noise from.
So that triangular piece that you have dotted,
Yes. That is the easement area, and I'm recommending it be a future offer of dedication for Ocean Avenue.
to the town.
Yep. It changed slightly from the map that we looked at completeness because they did some revisions for the hearing, which we received on January 8th. So the only changes I'm asking are for them to include the gas easement, gas main in that easement, and also to try to, it's very small, as you see at the point, so I'm trying to see if we can get some of that pavement off the private property, but still have the road be suitable. And that way, hopefully, we can keep that easement tailored to the 2,200 roughly that lot is in excess. But we have provided for a 10-foot buffer on the bottom to keep as much as we can of the wooded portion on, that is, I think, lot 4? Yes, lot 4.
Jackie, are these IA systems typically put in the side yard now? Do you know?
We actually asked for them to be in the front yard as designed.
Because the survey's showing them on the side yard. The IA system,
Oh, these are not required to be IA systems.
but they're showing them as IA.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny because the typical thing that we usually approve is, see in that top right corner, is usually in the front yard. They do have them shifted like kind of to the side in the front yard. We always require that typical lot layout show them in the front. So.
What lot are you on? Proposed
All
lot
the lots.
1?
Well, Dennis is showing that the design of, let's see, I guess like 1
They're showing on the side, yeah.
and proposed 3 and 4 are on the side. Proposed lot 2 is actually in the front yard.
This is lot 3, they're showing the IA
IA
system.
system.
This is lot 4, showing the IA system. But usually they're out in the front.
They're not required to install IA in this location.
But they're offering them, it looks like. I got it.
It just says septic tank and leaching.
Are they offering them?
I
They're
don't-
not offering them?
I don't think so.
Why would your survey show them?
Where is it showing them?
On the survey?
It's just showing proposed septic systems. I don't see a note that it's
Are
IA.
those IAs?
They're just standard.
Multiple pools?
Yeah. Which is fairly customary. That you have, sometimes you have one or sometimes you have two.
You have the one standard leaching pool, and you have to show the expansion pool.
Yeah.
That's the second range on the expansion area.
And the
Sometimes you
third?
see it like this, but these are just,
So each one is 3, right?
You have the septic tank, which is the first
And then
one.
two
and then
leaching.
the leaching pool, and then there's, for the future, the expansion pool shown. You don't have to install it at the time the sanitary system's installed. You just have to show that you can
have room for
accommodate
it.
in the future if you need it.
It's also confusing things that they have almost like all the site layout for the houses instead of it just being like a blank subdivision map.
Can you just tell me why on this map you have former lot 44, former lot 43, former lot 42?
Oh, it's a special OFAL map.
Yeah, those are, they're all
Those are
laid
the
over
old lot
existing.
descriptions of the special OFAL map.
Does that stay on the? this,
We're going to
site
abandon
plan?
it at the final approval. We will be asking for a certificate of abandonment, so we'll be abandoning the underlying old file map.
So that'll come off of this final subdivision.
So will the houses and the locations of everything. The only thing we really need to look at are the driveways.
And part of the health department review is
They want to see the,
the layout of the
right,
Yeah, so I'm sure they're taking this map to the health
to the health, it's
Well,
the health department. right.
It's more advanced than what you typically see in the
Lisa.
pre-app stage. Lisa Poyer with Inner Science on behalf of the applicant. It's more advanced than you would typically see at the pre-app stage, because with the prior subdivision application, it was already before the health department when they let the pre-app go and expire. So they were already along with the design of the map, so it's, instead of simplifying it down to your pre-app maps, we just continued on with the current level
This is
that we
more
had.
detailed, what you're saying.
More detailed than
Yeah.
you typically see at the pre-app stage.
Because you've already done it.
We're already done, yeah. We're getting there.
Okay. So, I'll just continue through and I'll try to be quick. But, so I just have the description of the surrounding area, the requested action, which we've gone over. It is a type 2 action under SECRA. We do recommend that it's a minor subdivision and that the cluster was actually waived through your planning board resolution in November of 2019. It is a minor review. We are stating the variance from February 1st, 2007, which gave lot area relief and also lot width variances for the lots from 120 to 100. The planning analysis, we are stating that Lot 1 does not comply, although it did receive a variance. Park requirement shows that it is a 4-lot subdivision because they were never residentially developed. There was no houses on site. The park fee will be assessed against all 4 lots. Public comments we did have on January 9th, 2020. The public hearing was closed with a 10-day written comment period. No public comments were received at the public hearing or within the set written comment period. Fire prevention had comments by January 3rd, 2020, had standard recommendations and stated that the area is served by public water and fire mains and water mains and fire hydrants. East Quogue Fire District had no recommendations, although they recommended compliance with their driveway safety requirements and fire requirements. So I have forwarded that to the applicant. The town engineer did have comments. It will require a speedies general permit and a SWIP plan and application fee. They did state that the properties will require 280A, but Dennis will talk about the improvements of Ocean Ave in my recommendations. And then they asked for some map notes and recommended a 3-inch drainage covenant. Did not recommend approval. Suffolk County DPW did offer comments on January 13th, 2020, and did say that they were withholding approval of the application. They did ask for a removal of the asphalt driveway aprons and note of grading in the right-of-way with topsoil and seed. They did ask all trees to be out of the county right-of-way. I do have a concern with that, and I am going to reach out to them on that matter because street trees we like to have in the right-of-way. So,
Usually are.
we're going to try to pick some trees that are not going to be interfere with them. We also kind of do have a very large shoulder over there, so I'm going to ask that there be just barely in the right-of-way, so that way they have plenty of room for maintenance and plowing and stuff like that, or a future sidewalk. Although there's no sidewalks in the area, we were looking to hopefully maybe get sidewalks, because we were looking at the aerial and we thought Tony's Asian Fusion had a sidewalk, but it's actually just like a wall that on the aerial looked like a small sidewalk, so.
And so they have to rip out the asphalt driveways?
The
that
old
are in
asphalt
place?
aprons, and then we're gonna ask
And
for
reseed
standard
it?
street trees, yeah, topsoil, reseed it, and then we're gonna ask for some street trees. So
So
I
the-
asked for a street tree plan at the final application stage. The only thing is, I don't really wanna get into a tree preservation plan on new trees that we're planting. The whole point is kind of to provide street trees, and the applicants are amenable to that, to kind of soften, this is a very open sand lot, which had a previous disturbance. So we're kind of trying to bring it back, give it more community aesthetics, and get those street trees on the front there, and kind of minimize the impacts of these houses from Montauk Highway. So I'm going to call the county and just talk to them directly and just say, can we just please put them on like the very edge of the right-of-way, so that way there's plenty of room and it won't interfere with any future maintenance or installation of drainage, et cetera. But otherwise, we would have to covenant those street trees on private property, or if we did not, that private homeowner could just, 5 years down the road, just cut them all down. So that's why we like them to be in the right-of-way, so that way the private
Is
property.
this a new thing with the DOT?
I
or-
think just the least amount of maintenance is probably their goal. But in this, I'm going to tell them that we really want to kind of reclaim this. We're doing this as a residential
Right.
subdivision, which is a zoning. So I'm going to explain to them
Part of
that
the
they will
master
be
plan, too, is
planted.
it not, too?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk to them, but, and we're also we have really good recommendations actually in the New Hampton Bays study that actually gives you canopy, and they've studied really nicely which trees really do well, especially we do have utility poles here. So we're gonna look at a tree that has a canopy and a growth height that will be cohesive. Okay, but, and I was talking to Lisa, we might do like a staggering. I don't want them all maybe to be, the smaller trees, but maybe in one smaller, one bigger canopy tree, but not to interfere with the utility lines that are there. Okay. Conservation Board had recommendations from January 8th, 2020. They stated that 3 parcels are previously developed, and the one property just south is wooded, and that it previously housed a nightclub. They said, as in the February 8th, 2012 advisory report, they are proposing to establish a covenanted 10-foot wide naturally vegetated buffer along the southerly boundary of proposed lot 4. And although the applicant is providing the requested buffer, the project plans are not yet consistent with the recommendations of the Conservation Board's prior advisory report, which had requested parcel 4 take access off of Ocean Ave rather than Seaside Avenue, because we did ask them to show their driveways. And they stated, because as the largest concentration of mature trees are along the westerly property boundary, for the preservation of a corridor of trees of natural vegetation along the west side would not only secure some of the viewshed and wooded character of the area as seen from Montauk Highway, but also help screen the future residences from commercial uses along Seashore Avenue.
So should we consider that, putting the driveway?
Well, so if you look at the
off
map,
Ocean?
well, if you look at the map, unfortunately, the way the lots are, because of the configuration, that's the wider part of the road frontage. So generally, though, that's where you want to have your primary structure and residence. If you put it along the Ocean Ave, it's a narrower frontage. So you're essentially impeding the building envelope and the availability of frontage from
By
Seashore.
how much? I mean,
It's much narrower. Let me see.
we're looking at
Exactly.
it.
It's 80 feet.
80 feet.
And they've been given a lot variance, though, for 100 feet, based upon the applicant's proposal to access it from Seashore Avenue.
So they're going to have to remove all of that foliage in order to get that driveway in.
They don't have to remove it all. I mean, they don't have to put in a circle driveway, but it would be up to the residents when they developed.
But with driveway, these are huge driveways, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're showing proposed circle driveways. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to have a proposed circle driveway. And we could actually limit the driveway location as well. So we could look at that. We could limit where the driveway comes in or not.
Yeah, that's using up an awful lot of the land space.
We also don't have to, if it was reversed, where we were taking it off of Ocean and not was it Seashore? We could, in the backyard, clear up to the buffer automatically. So I think that showing it the way it is the most intelligent way to provide the frontage on that other road, where it's balanced between the subdivision, 2 lots off of each road provides the most reasonable choice for future development of the lot.
We didn't consider a common driveway, first 50 feet, and then,
I mean, these private roads are not heavily used. There's not real any concerns with traffic conflicts or traffic on these roads. So we didn't limit the number of driveways, in the original pre-app report. So they, they essentially will be having 2 driveways on Seashore, 2 driveways on Ocean. With this road, I mean, I've been down this road. It's not very heavily traveled. So we were allowing them each to have their own driveway. But we could prescribe if you know.
well, I mean, conservation is saying that the largest concentration of mature native trees are along the westerly property.
If you'd
property
like, I
boundary.
think actually previously, the previous surveyor actually noted the trees. I think Jake Buckheit did on previous surveys. I could ask them to note the substantial trees on the western side, just so we can take a look at that at the
Okay.
final
That would be
application
good.
stage and see where they are.
Yep.
And I do think we had that on previous plans, it's just we have a new surveyor. Oh, he didn't? I think he did on another version, yeah. It might be in my file.
There's a tree there, there's a tree there.
I think he might have located them all on another, but we can ask for them to be located. What caliper were you looking for? Like over 12 inches in caliper?
But I mean, they make a good point, because they said that the vegetation could also buffer from the commercial uses
Well, and that's why we did ask for the 10-foot, so.
along Seashore.
yeah.
What's along, is there commercial use right along
It's
there?
Tony's Asian Fusion, it's a restaurant.
Ah.
Yeah. It's more towards the north. It's not directly adjacent there.
But just as a follow-up, even if it was the backyard, there's still nothing in regulations that say you can't clear up to your property line. You have to have setbacks for structures, like a swimming pool or other accessory structures in your rear yard, which it still could be because it's street frontage. It doesn't mean you can't clear them.
But we would have a buffer imposed, right?
But the buffer is only along the southern edge.
There are no clearing restrictions on this.
There's no
property.
clearing restrictions on these properties. So to try and limit something that a future homeowner might want to do there, it just seems,
I can ask for large caliper trees to be shown on lot 4.
Okay.
That way we can take.
Yeah, take a look.
Okay. So I'll add that. We usually do 12, I think, 12, 13.
12 inches?
Yeah.
diameter?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so I will add that, actually, so we're almost to the recommendations, but I'm going to add that to underneath recommendation number 2 to show those large trees on lot 4. The Trails Advisory Board by February 4th, 2020 said there was no trail implications at this time. We did not receive any comments back from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services or the East Quogue CAC. So with the recommendations, I just stated that we should have the final subdivision map indicate a title that says Final Subdivision Map of the State of Madeline Cuomo, that the applicant shall provide the shown 10-foot buffer and rename it to 10-foot naturally vegetated non-disturbance non-fertilization buffer on the final plat. I will add in that the applicant shall show and note large caliper trees over 12 inches in caliper, and that we shall continue to rename, and I wanted to ask, I wanted to rename the easement so it was clear what that easement was for, to rename the easement on that very sharp corner on the northeast to say corner radius and utility easement. So that way it was clear, it's just not a blank easement. And because of that, we already kind of went over that. It is a little bit different configuration. We are asking that the gas main fully be included in that easement, and that the applicant also provide future offer of dedication for the same easement area in case Ocean Ave ever becomes part of the town highway system. I also recommended that, as we stated before, that small areas of pavement may be able to be removed, and that we'll consult with the town engineer division regarding that, where those areas can be removed, so we can kind of lessen the easement and put it more up towards the corner where we need that, and residents are already utilizing that. 6 is the DPW comments that no curb cuts shall be permitted along Montauk Highway, and all existing aprons from Montauk Highway shall be removed prior to final conditional approval. The applicant shall comply with engineering comments. I am going to separate out the road review into a new category, just because, Dennis, you had requested, because of the water main extension and because of the impacts, and, we'll look at that in between pre-app and final, that you did want to see Ocean Ave approved now.
So you'll make that.
So I'll
separate
make
eight?
that
Make
a new
eight?
one, yeah.
So they're
that'll-
going to do an improvement
So you asked for improvements along Ocean because of the water main extension. Also, that will allow us to look at that and make sure some of the pavement is removed from private property and make sure that everything's like of adequate width.
How are we're gonna do that? They're gonna post it?
Either, so I was recommending that it be done prior to signature, or we would have to post a bond. So I'm writing now prior to signature. This is just the pre-app report, so we'll see how far we get by final application, depending on the bond. So I'm just going to separate that out since we do have a recommendation to improve Ocean, and then I'll just say 280A for Seashore
So
Ave.
you'll make that number 8.
Yes.
288.
Yep, yep. And so then 8 is just show and note the street trees along Montauk Highway and add, submit a street tree plan, so that way I can look at the street trees, and I'm going to make some recommendations to Lisa for the appropriate trees, since there are utility lines there. And we just have findings regarding why we're requesting those. 9 is just a heads up on covenants that will be required at the final application, and then just proceed to Health Department with the final application. Were there any other questions?
Okay, so Lisa, you have any other questions?
Just so you know, and maybe you've seen it, they just put new utility poles along that stretch, and they're much higher.
Yeah, much.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll have a more variety of trees
Yeah.
that we can look at.
And you've got that plan for the Hampton
Yes, and it's very
Bays
useful.
district,
Hampton
right, that's
Bays
very
has
useful.
given us those, especially downtown centers, you want to have those nice street trees, but you are sometimes, limited to the height because of existing utility lines serving the buildings, et cetera. So I'll be able to do a nice comparison of how high the tension wires are, what trees we can, and give them some that would be appropriate for that area.
Great.
Yep.
Lisa, do you have anything more? Okay,
I'll
so.
move to adopt the report.
Motion to adopt the report by Dennis, second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
So next, I would like to go to agenda item number 8. I will just discuss what we are formally on the agenda for, but it is impacting the overall development map for Developers Corp. of New York Seabreeze, and also
Number
part of
8?
Ocean View. Yes, number 8.
Number 8.
So the request of the applicant, as well as other things that we will get to, is he had requested to abandon Lewis Avenue. So,
Do you have a map to show us?
Yes,
so you
yeah.
can Please.
I have a feeling we're gonna get
Oh, we have boards.
you're gonna
We
get
have
a
boards.
presentation, but I do have the resolution here.
You never have to ask for maps.
This is just an aerial. But you'll basically see it's almost like he's asking to abandon the road that would be serving Lot 8, and it would act as a flag lot.
Wait, Jackie, give us context before you start to, you know it by heart, but,
We've been working with this.
yes, I know.
Give me one. Okay. But if you look at the aerial, so see, it's highlighted in blue. The lot that we're talking about is in blue, and then you'll see at the very southwest corner, that's actually Lewis Avenue. So he has purchased the rights of Lewis Avenue from Marla Schwenk, and it is supposed to serve access to Development Parcel 8, so he would like to abandon that and utilize it as part of the square footage for Development Parcel number 8. And basically, it would serve as a flag lot to that development parcel.
That blue is all one lot then?
It's actually 2 separate parcels.
There's 2 separate parcels, and I don't.
Lewis Avenue is its own parcel, which Joe has
Where's Lewis
acquired.
yeah.
Avenue?
It's the small, narrow blue parcel.
So the end result would be the one long narrow
Lot
blue
with a
parcel as
flag.
with a dog leg down to.
Yes. And there was an incorrect note on the development section map.
Let's take a look at
Yeah,
his
that's
graphic,
fine. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
his graphics are always impressive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I know this area, and I still doesn't make any sense. to me.
Well,
I have a
maybe-
short
maybe
presentation.
Joe's
My
map
name is
will-
Joseph Gazza. I'll try to keep it short. I have assistants with me this afternoon. I have my co-applicant, Marla Schwenk, and my daughter, Blair. And we're going to be talking about an old filed map, which has been before this board for 7.5 years. And it's actually been approved by the board. And what we're asking today is a couple tweaks to the approved map to make it better. So let's start with my assistant holding up. This is just to give you.
You can rest it on the table here.
That's really helpful.
I want to show you this
Put
shit.
it on the chair, Joe.
This is for Marla. Marla, you're involved here too. As the board is aware, there exists in our town old filed maps that were,
We know.
We know all
We
about
know that
you
part.
know all about
We
it. I
know.
don't have to get involved.
We've taken a special
Turn this
course.
around.
We actually took a 3-hour class, so.
All right.
Jackie, it was
Marla's
great.
going to show you a combination of 4 old filed maps
That's what we have right here.
that were put together and approved by your board in 2008. So your board considered this area off of Edge of Woods Road. You determined that the area could support 8 building lots, and everything north of the power lines would have to be preserved, because this is where the town has all their parkland.
That's
preserved.
sending, and this is receiving.
Sending, receiving.
walk forward and put it on the table? Move forward.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because the
And
microphone.
use these
There are
mics.
mics here, so you
Oh.
can be heard.
Okay. Thank you. So, we have to finalize this map because the board gave us a number of conditions to get approval to build on the various lots. And I've been working with Marla and with another gentleman next door named Ken Wright, and Ed Brody before Ken Wright, to satisfy those conditions so that we can get this map on the finish line for approval to make the lots complete. Okay? We've been before the board a couple times. We brought in development rights. You may remember, we filled up Marla's lots
3, 4, and
5, 6, and 7, so that they each have 200,000 square feet of rights. We filled up Gaz's lots 1 and 4, so it had 200,000 square feet of rights each. Lots 2 and 3, they're a little short. We were before the board, they're up to about 180,000, 160,000, They're almost there. So we wanted to sort of finalize this so that we can advance from this to our final map. Okay? Now I'll show you the final map, which has a couple tweaks in it. I put this right in the middle here,
Sure.
okay?
Put it on the table, yeah.
The final map shows all of the area in green, which was area that was used for its development rights,
That's all north of the power line.
north of the power lines. Okay? Because it's 5 acre zoning and we have 8 lots, we should have 40 acres. Actually, we have 12 acres that comprise the 8 lots, and we have 28 acres that's preserved
Development
That
rights.
equals
that-
40.
with development rights,
Yeah.
and the land has been given to the town. So we removed the rights, gave the land to the town. It's in the area that the town wants to
Yeah,
preserve.
but, yeah.
It's like a cluster development, so to speak. With this map, we've also eliminated 4,350 feet of paper streets. Okay? Jackie thinks that's a pretty good thing to get rid of because
We've absorbed them into the lot.
absorb them into the lots, got rid of streets that'll never have to be used or opened. And what we're asking for the board to consider under the original map that you approved, we had proposed a road that was 1,000 feet long with a cul-de-sac at the end. But since this map was approved 7 years ago, the town has now expressed an interest in purchasing lot number 4, community preservation. So we're thinking that maybe a road is not necessary for 1,000 feet long. And maybe we can
Do this.
satisfy a 500-foot road for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots, and maybe a common driveway for these 2 if the town buys this one. It would make for a shorter, better road, less intrusion into the
How does lot 7 get in?
lot 7. would come in with a driveway in Broadway, private driveway.
Because Broadway exists, right?
Broadway
Broadway will
exists.
stay.
Well,
It
this
exists
is
on.
just woods.
It's woods, exists
Yeah.
on paper,
Right.
but it would have a driveway created from the cul-de-sac to get to Lot 7, to get to Lot 3.
Okay, so you're calling this a flag lot to,
It's
you want to
common-
you want to abandon this road?
No, we're not going to abandon it.
No,
We're going to
it's gonna
use it
as a driveway.
as a common driveway area. The road is approximately 30 feet in width.
What's the difference between a road and a common driveway?
Well, a road,
It's really how it's developed. It's whether it's a driveway. Driveways are usually 14 to 18 feet wide when serving common driveway. And a private road is usually 18 to 20 feet wide. A public road is usually 20.
So the road would still remain as a road, it would just be subject to a different improvement standard.
that's correct.
It would be, what are you proposing, Joe?
Well, we're proposing to make the first 500 feet of Broadway with a 50-foot wide offer of dedication, with easements for drainage and slope as determined by the town engineer and our surveyor, and to improve the blue, which you see the blue, to a 20-foot width, which is also, is all approved in connection with this map. We already have an approved road plan. What we're asking to do is cut it in half. That's all. And pursuant to, oh, sorry.
Question, if the town buys this lot 4,
Right,
and they want to provide access to that lot,
right.
can they use this road?
Yes.
So it's then I call it a road, not a driveway.
It's a private road, and they can use it.
2, Lot 3, Lot 4.
Because I'm thinking there could be trail implications.
They can use that road, that's the access.
By the town, right.
Technically, Joe, what you're asking is a modification of your approved road plan. Going from that, it's still gonna be a road plan, but everything north of the blue is gonna
Be driveway.
Your driveway.
be, well, it's still a road though, right?
Still, it's the
It's gonna be
common
the bed of the
driveway
road.
within the road.
Unless you have a do you have a mechanism to abandon like 2 and 3 and convey title somehow because you have controlling ownership?
We-
Well, I
we don't
just
want to-
asked him
Okay.
if we can use it, and he said yes, to get to town-owned land if town buys that.
The-
To me, that's a public road. I don't understand.
Okay. The abandonments, the legal erasure of roads that has occurred over these maps has been substantial. That's how we got
Oh,
rid
yeah,
of
no, I
4,000
totally
feet of road.
understand that.
But my first request today was to abandon this last little piece of Lewis.
Okay.
This is the piece that's on the agenda to abandon, because this piece only serves lot number 8. okay? It was owned by Marla Schwenk, because she owns a lot on either sides. Marla deeded the roadbed to me, and in the deed, she reserved the right to use this road to get to her lot number 6. So we've got 6 and 8 covered if we can abandon this road. That's the first request.
Understand.
If we shorten the improvements to Broadway and make this the width of an official town road, so it could be accepted in the future, with offer of dedication and all the legal documents in place that our town attorney requested, which we're willing to do, we would still have a private road called Broadway, an extension, that could be used by the owners of the lots on the map for a driveway.
And by the town.
And but the town, if they owned the lot, they could use it as a driveway. It could open it up. They could- So it's there for them. Next question, not question, but we want to do something down on the bottom of this road. If you look at the approved map, Broadway is straight as an arrow. It's a 1,000-foot bowling alley. And when you're standing,
It's appropriately named.
Broadway. Well, when you're standing at this point, at the southerly end of Broadway where it intersects Edgewoods Road, you can't see cars coming around on Edgewoods Road. And the town engineer brought this out, and she said, that you have a problem here because you have poor visibility. Okay? So it wasn't until Mr. Brody sold his lots to Mr. Wright, and Mr. Wright sold his lots to Joe Gazza on a trade, that I was able to get these little pieces of land down here, so that now I can shift this road
Curve it.
80 feet to the east, which gives you the sight distance, gives you a better entranceway, more pleasing, more aesthetic, and that's my second request, just to twist it a little bit over
Is that
there.
where the bunch of trees we just cut down this winter?
I cut trees down in the building envelopes.
Yeah, no, there was some trees cut down right on the road.
We brought down the branches which we chipped.
Okay.
The building envelopes were cleared over here and over here. I'm getting all my work done, I'm working on it today, before the ticks come out.
They're still out with this weather.
Well, they're going to be out strong very soon,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
not going to be in the woods because I've suffered enough from them in my life. So the second request, shift the road a little bit down on the bottom. Everybody seems to be in favor so far, if the board likes it.
What's that other pink down there?
Well, this would be the westerly half of Broadway. That's no longer necessary.
I see, because you're bringing the road in further.
So if this could be abandoned, Marla's lot number six,
Can pick it
five,
up.
can get a little wider. She picks up a little extra land, makes the lot a little more
Yeah, that's bowling alleys.
bowling,
That
makes it.
narrow.
So I would ask for permission to do that, as long as we're shifting the road over.
If you abandon that little big piece of Lewis,
How do you get?
how do you get to 8?
How do you get to 8?
It would act
Well,
as a flag strip.
I come up Broadway,
Yeah.
and I come through.
In other words, that pink
that
would
would
be
become-
tacked on
Oh,
to
it
eight.
becomes a
Instead of-
flag.
instead
Becomes
a
part of
flag
it.
strip,
Flag would be a flag lot.
It would essentially be a flag.
Well, the only thing is you couldn't do gates, you couldn't do a gate on that private road if it's going to serve as town access.
We don't propose any
You don't want a
gates,
gate.
right?
You'd have to restrict, you'd have to restrict it somehow, covenant
Whatever you determine.
Why
or
would they
improvement.
move?
See, these improvements are being done in the bed of a road, and the road isn't going to be, you're saying you don't want to, you can't abandon the road, you don't want to abandon the road.
Well, but this section of Broadway,
Yeah, that's-
the
Yeah, that
relocate,
stays.
that's going to be open for everybody.
Right.
We're making the offers of dedication, we're doing the easements for everybody on the map.
Everybody who has the lots, yeah.
Everybody who has the lots.
Right.
So up to here, anybody can use it. When you go on past the cul-de-sac, only lot owners on the old maps can use it, because it's a private road.
Technically, the town owns that. Is there another access to that lot 4 that the town is buying? Isn't there another access?
I don't think so.
The town has land further to the west
Yeah.
over,
And there are trails that go
There are
up, over that way that may actually even go in there. I'm not,
they come in through the top.
yeah, I'm not sure. I've
Is
walked
that
them.
Great Hill?
It's further south.
Yeah, it's where the power lines intersects
Yeah,
the
and
edge of woods.
You actually can go up to SYS
Yeah.
on these
Because
trails.
if the town has another way of access, you really don't need to maintain the access for the town. You could do an abandonment and make them actually flag lots. Give each of those lots 15
Yeah.
feet of fee title.
I'll have to look, I don't know.
Yeah, because I
wanna-
I
you
think
wanna
you
cut
might-
this-
You might be able to get there in the
Yeah.
woods, but
Well, we don't know what
but
the town's
we
gonna
wouldn't
do.
have, like,
I'm just thinking it's cleaner. And then
Well,
you could do a gate.
I've cleaned this up as best as I can.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
town's gonna do,
Yeah.
you know, the town,
Right, they could do
Lisa
it another
Combrick
thing.
says it's been on their agenda now for months, and nothing has happened, and it's, you know, maybe that's the way it works with the town, it's,
well, there's a lot of town lands in that area.
Oh,
And,
substantial.
you know, it's 5 acres because it's in the Aquifer Overlay Protection District, so there could just be water issues why they want to buy it, not necessarily trail.
But I don't believe there's any other, like, road access or public way to get to this
I think
lot,
only if you
other
went,
than
if you
through
went
trail.
in off
Other
of
than
Edge
the
of
trail.
Woods, much further
by
west.
Barrel Hill. you
So
know,
I
Barrel-
would generally
That's exactly-
recommend
yeah.
that we keep
Barrel
the
Hill.
road, so that way public residents can
That's the
still
way it is.
access
It
it.
all makes sense to
But I
me.
don't know if
As
you
well as,
actually
yeah.
can get to that.
So what are we looking at approving? This
So we have an,
revisions?
Well,
we
this-
have an
this is like
approved
an
road
introdu-
improvement.
introduction
Is an approved development plan
This-
for the road?
This is an approved plan, we want to cut it in half, go back to the town engineer and say we only want to do the south half of the road
With that little,
with the twist.
the twist. And also, when you amend your plan, Joe, show the common driveway, because you actually have to show it
He
on
has
the
a- He
plan.
has a version where I think you drew in.
How are you gonna do the driveway through 288, or are you gonna do it?
We're going to
off
leave that for whatever the town
We'll
suggests.
talk to the town engineering
Okay.
division, but they might approve the design of the common driveway, so that way when it is.
Yeah, that way
ADA,
they can,
They'll
it's
just
all
already have it.
approved.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
to answer the chairwoman's question, the abandonment of Lewis is the action item.
That's the action
Yes.
for today.
Yeah.
That's what
The
she's
abandonment of
asking.
Lewis, that's what
And
I
the abandonment of
introduced.
low part of.
And the
Well,
lower
we're not
part.
doing that yet, because we would have to amend the map to do that. But
Oh.
right now, what happened is, technically, this says, it was shaded incorrectly on the approved stamp one, so, Bob Smith accidentally shaded it as to be abandoned. Joe said, hey, Jackie, it's shaded as to be abandoned, can I abandon it? And normally I can write a memo if it's consistent with the map, and I was like, well, the intention was for that to be open, it was shaded incorrectly. So that's why I brought it to the board to be like, are you guys okay with abandoning that? Because he will then gain the 3,000 square feet for his development parcel, and then it will act as a flag lot. So it's okay, but I wanted to bring it to the board because it wasn't consistent with the intent.
So
of the approved
simultaneously
profile.
with the abandonment, though,
This will be the abandonment. I am not comfortable with moving forward with this yet because it's not
but
consistent.
simultaneously with that abandonment, you want to make sure that that appendage is tacked on to lot 8.
Yeah, so
right,
we could
Catherine?
require abandonment and merger.
Otherwise, we're landlocked. It's got to be it's got to be done
I
simultaneously.
can have the resolution say abandonment and
Right.
merger with the tax lot.
And then as soon as you get the town engineer to look at that revised road, then that's the
And
last
we can do
piece,
the lower
right?
part.
Well, and we'll probably, generally with a map like this though, we'll set a resolution, set a hearing, we'll have the engineer look at it, and then we'll approve it. But it
He's got-
seems like he wanted to.
He's got a shopping list here, I don't know.
He wanted to show you the overall plan. I have heard it
I
many
have a feeling we're
times.
not done.
But this is the first time for you seeing it, so if you guys are okay with it, he
This
will
is-
then proceed with a formal
It's an
application.
excellent presentation. What else?
I have a couple tweaks left, okay?
Okay, Joe, let's get to your little lots.
That's
you're
the next tweak,
All right,
okay.
there you go.
All right, so we want a resolution on this. Let's take
Yeah,
a,
let's,
To abandon
Let's
Lewis
make a
Road and merge it.
let's,
Let's talk
Jackie,
about
they're-
that first.
they're
The
calling
very
for a
quick-
resolution.
no, let's get a,
No,
We could do the little lots first, and then he can.
Okay.
So that
before
way
I-
we can take an action, and then.
Okay.
I want to do a resolution before I,
Lose
lose
this.
my traction here.
So we
Come
can
on,
do that
Jackie.
resolution now, Jackie?
No, there's some other little lots that he acquired from Ken Wright. That
Oh.
once they did title on them, they realized that there were not development rights on it. So he would like to ask the board's permission for a walk-on to land rights back on those little parcels. And Blair actually gave a nice little rendering.
Should we take this down?
No, we'll put it right in the back.
so those two lots over there.
Blair did a rendering, so the development parcels that we're talking about are in pink, and the lots that would need to be invested with new rights are in blue.
You're gonna get blue too. Sorry.
But this essentially.
So
would
you
bring-
took the rights off these?
I gotta tell you the story. You're jumping the gun.
I don't want to spoil your
Okay.
story.
All right, I'm gonna make it quick. The board, when they approved this map back in 2008, you put conditions on.
Yes.
One of the most important conditions was that these lots be merged, all the little pieces be merged to become a building lot. Okay? Those conditions were tough. Tough for me because Ed Broidy owned these little out pieces, and he wasn't selling them to me.
Those are the ones in blue?
Yeah, the
Yeah, the little blue ones.
The little tiny ones in blue.
That's what that blue
24 to
meant.
23 to 27.
Okay, so. he-
24, 23, 50, 51, 27, 25.2. He held the little pieces. He also owned this big piece in here. Okay? And I tried everything to buy, Marla tried. We worked with him. He was,
It's your destiny.
he was just tough, okay? So after,
And he's still alive.
he's still, oh, he's alive and well. So after.
Gone from this map.
After 3 and 4 years of trying,
Longer than that.
enter the picture Ken Wright next door. How Ken Wright and Ed Broidy hooked up, I have no idea. But Ken Wright bought from Broidy all of his lots.
Uh-huh.
He said, I'm getting off the Gaza Schwenk map, write me a check. So Ken Wright, who lives over here, and his sister lives in the back, and had an interest in the property being developed next door, don't mean want to see it developed, he bought all the Broidy lots, okay? And he was on the top of the pile then, because I went to see him, and he says, well, he says, I bought him to protect my house. You know, he's playing Brody number 2.
2.0.
But, enter the picture, Blair Catherine Gaza, okay? She runs the title on the lots that Wright bought from Brody.
Right.
What do you think she finds in the Riverhead, the county center? Blair?
Some of them, the ones listed there, the rights had been taken off.
The development rights have been removed
By
by
Brody.
Ed Brody. And he
Has
sold,
landed someplace else.
Sold them in glass.
So he sold property that didn't have rights.
not entirely, because this parcel over here had rights,
But this,
but these pieces didn't have the rights.
right.
Ed Wright didn't understand that. And he says, what do you mean? Ooh, I don't understand. What's this rights business? What's this?
Okay.
Okay, so Ed Wright
So
then.
we have a TDR today
Oh,
to land the rights.
Ken
Back on.
Ken Wright now lawyers up and hires Wayne Bruin. Wayne Bruin reviews the matter and said, how'd you buy lots with no rights?
They were cheap.
So then we got together with Wayne, Ken Wright, Joe Gaza, and I said, look, I need these lots because they fill in my pieces. And the planning board put a condition that I have to get all the pieces. I don't care if they have rights. I'll get rights. I'll buy rights. And Wright said, well, you know, I want the land next to my house. So I says, all right. I says, I got a lot here that's full of rights, fully approved. It's next to you and your sister's house. I'll trade it for this lot, which is not a full lot. It's only 150,000 square feet, not 200,000. But throw in these pieces with no rights. He said, what are you going to do with places with no rights? I said, throw them in. We made the deal. Okay? So part two to today's request is for me to take the rights, which I've accumulated over the last couple of years with Blair, and put them back on the Brody lots that he sold to Wright, so that now I not only have the lots, but I have the rights with the lots.
Wow, this is like Monopoly.
It's been a lot.
But if
Park
he-
Place.
Now I got lost.
Uh-oh.
Because if Brody sold the rights to someone else,
He used them for another
Used them,
parcel.
Landed them someplace
okay.
else.
He put them back on from another parcel.
That much
He used
I-
them on another
yeah,
piece.
You had a
that
parcel
much,
that you
but
put them
my
back
question
on.
Yeah, that's what I want to do today.
They took A
use them
off,
if they're-
you
if
put
they were
B
sent
back on.
somewhere.
That's the
They
second
were
request.
essentially preserved by using them to develop somewhere else. What he's asking
request.
for now is to land the development rights back on it so that we can make the development parcels whole as what your map.
Yeah, so they merged in, because what we're looking at is this, Joe.
You're looking at this.
They're already merged.
They've already merged,
Yeah.
so we don't have to land rights on those particular parcels,
Well-
Yes, because they're little out
because
parcels that they
technically they
were.
don't exist anymore.
Well,
Well, they do
technically,
exist.
they're part of a bigger piece, but they don't, there's pieces in here that don't have rights.
So in other words, lot number 3, let's take lot number 3. Normally, you would have 47,241 square footage right, but probably that lot is only 39,000 square foot of rights.
Right, 32,000.
Yeah.
32,000.
Yeah.
So it's an
That's-
aggregate
we've
thing.
got
It's
like
not like we're
six.
landing rights on,
There's a twist, though.
Yeah.
Because when you take the rights off, you record a document in Riverhead.
okay.
So a person goes to build a house on lot 3,
Yeah.
and he says, am I building on land with no rights or on land with rights?
So you gotta land them on the specific.
So he has to
That's-
put them back
And then
on.
when do you abandon them after you land the rights?
He
no,
already,
They're gonna use
I've already
it to
done
we've
that.
develop.
already abandoned them. But we're just gonna fill it up on the new taxation number, so that way the whole land is
Yeah, well,
developed.
that goes back to what I was saying. That's what you're
Let the
doing.
young
The
lady-
TDR describes, like, to put the rights back on the
The
old file
specific
map
parcel.
lot.
Specific.
It says formally now, and then it gives the current tax map.
Right.
Formerly these tax members, now this tax map.
So those lots no longer exist.
Right.
No.
Right.
So we're back, just gotta
We're
load up
back
that
with
lot.
this.
Well, upload that
But
up.
they're giving you the visual of which ones.
Oh,
they
yeah.
were.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the second
Very
request.
interesting.
I have a third request.
All right, very fast. Let's do the
But
last.
if you guys are
All
okay
right.
with that, we essentially would be putting back on those development rights to make those parcels whole.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
So I am comfortable with moving forward with a TDR on that. Normally, we ask for separate TDRs. I'm comfortable in doing it in one TDR, but I'm going to save it in all 3 development parcel files.
Okay.
Do you want to bring up them all the way up to 200 or?
That's number 4. You're jumping the
No,
gun.
that's, yeah, we're just gonna.
That's the last one I'm going to
Are
do.
you way off?
Yeah, well, that.
No, that's,
No.
no, I'm getting
Yeah,
close.
can we take a vote on the
Third issue,
abandonment?
this next
Yes.
issue.
Okay, you want to do a
motion
resolution on the
Okay.
abandonment
So
first?
maybe take a vote on your action item on the agenda, on
Yeah.
the one that, and then the second on the one Mr. Gaza just discussed, and then this third issue is a little different.
Okay, so the first issue is to amend the map of Joe Gaza and abandoned
Abandon Lewis?
Lewis.
And I'm gonna, that's a resolution before you, but I'm gonna say subject to merger of those parcels.
Right,
Subject to
Subject
merger
to
of those
merger.
parcels,
right. So
okay?
you gotta
So,
merge that piece.
can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gloria and second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, second is,
That's for the TDR, that will land the development rights back on development parcels 2, 3, and
You're doing that
1, 2,
in
and
one
3.
resolution, Jackie, or you
Yeah.
doing?
I'm comfortable because it's little ones filling up the land that is, physically there. I'm just going to save it in each file so there's no confusion.
Confusion.
And that way, that TDR, I will also carefully then save in each one of those development application folders as
so
well.
the
I still have a question though. Those development rights that Brody landed somewhere else, how can you put them back? They've already been used.
They're different rights.
I have
he's
new
bringing
land.
rights in.
He's got his own rights.
He's
got-
bringing his
He's
own
got
rights
another
in.
piece of land.
He's got another piece of land somewhere else that he's going to
Okay, that
sterilize.
much I understand. I guess
Super.
then maybe it's a math question. These little blue.
This little piece over here.
Happens to be
I'm putting them back.
apples. He's got to put them back.
You have a Lego.
Same.
Like a Lego.
You took your Lego and put it in.
The old file now, Lego.
That's-
If this is 5,000 square feet, just for argument's sake, does that mean that the amount of development rights you have to bring in to get to the full 5 acres is less than 5,000 square feet? Now you have to bring more in because otherwise you're counting it
Yes,
twice.
that's what I told him. So to make math clearer, he wants to fill up all the little lots that are lacking development rights, and then he's going to come back to you to land the full 5-acre rights.
So you're going to
at
take
a different
development
date.
rights that you bought somewhere else?
He has a
Okay,
19,000 square
that's
foot
the
parcel.
piece that I was missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like you were trying to count
No, I
it
want to
twice.
do, I don't want to do double, no.
She's a
Not a double dipper.
person.
No, and I kind of called him out on that.
Not a double
We're
dipper.
going
Okay,
through
I
the
have a
Laura,
hard
and-
time to
He's only doing the physical land that he can develop, and he's just bringing the actual equal amount that he is lacking back to the.
Got it.
Right.
That makes
And he
perfect
has a
sense.
19,000 square foot parcel, one parcel that they're all coming from. So this 19,000 square feet is going to be used to fill up all of the blue.
And
So
what
give
you
it-
said much earlier is that you're still missing some development rights. So
Yes,
these
he
are
will come
not-
back to you at a later date.
These
to
are
fill
not,
it.
they can't be
Yes.
built on it.
So can you give us the
I'm fine.
language, please, for this?
Well, I'm going to prepare
Resolution?
the resolution in standard format, but it's going to basically state that lots 1, 2, and 3 are lacking development rights based upon title information that we have. We're going to be utilizing this one parcel, which is Suffolk County Tax Map number 998-314.1, of which has 19,000 square feet. So it will be filling up parcel 3 with, 13,625, parcel 2 with 4,000 square feet, and then also parcel 1 with 1,971 square feet.
So we're taking a
So we
vote
can
on
take
that.
that action, and
Okay.
I'm comfortable writing that up here.
So that language that you just, that
So moved.
Jackie just gave, moved by Phil, second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. So that's the second piece you've got.
Thank you.
Now the
Now you're
third,
double overtime.
You might want to move your head.
Here's the final. Ready for the final? We all know that you have to have 200,000 square feet on a lot to make it full, to play in the game.
Yes.
Okay. We also know that I still have lots number 2, 3, and 8, which are short. They don't have enough rights. Even I cashed in all my rights, and I brought in rights with this board's permission from West Hampton. Under your policy, you're allowed to bring in half.
He brought in as much as he could from West Hampton, 100,000
Right.
square feet on each.
So I'm just a little bit short on, I don't know, about 12,000, 6,000, something like that, short. On this one, a little bit more.
11,000 on
11,000.
one of them, and
I'm a little short on these two lots, okay? And I don't have any more Southampton rights. Okay? I've been working and working and working, I don't have them. And I want to finish this map. So I have an idea that I'm going to brush past the board.
We're not setting land in the moon. You can't, we won't allow that.
Here's my idea.
Your idea.
This lot number 8, which is now all abandoned, all cleaned up, looks like a beautiful lot, right? Has 150,000 square feet,
Southampton.
all Southampton School District, all, it has its rights, this area, 150,000. If I take the 50,000 off of this lot, and I sprinkle it onto these other pieces over here, and I bring in 100,000 from West Hampton and land it on lot number 8, I'll be finished with the map. And all the lots will have 200,000 square feet. It hasn't been done before, as Jackie will tell you, where you have a lot that's 150,000,
Take 50,000.
take 50 off and bring 100 back.
But it's
There's a lot-
West Hampton Beach, right?
Yes, well,
Bring-
and so the intent of Old File Maps is to bring these lots up to zoning. So he has tried to achieve that, which is good. I have reservations about a development parcel that we have approved, now using portions of it as
Yeah.
a sending parcel.
Yeah.
But I think the intent is there. Why don't we do it cleaner, Joe? Why don't you just keep your 150 there and just
Take the
fill in your, what do you need to fill in those two lots?
Well, I already have 100,000
Wait, I
West
have an
Hampton.
idea. I have an idea. This just came to me.
Okay.
Okay.
If we're going to amend the map for your road purposes, why don't we just slice down the development parcel by 50,000, make the most northerly 50,000 a sending parcel, and then we won't be taking any rights off a development parcel. How about
That's
that?
interesting.
How about that?
Show me.
Because then I don't have a problem with it, because then we're going to have an approved development parcel.
Point out.
And we could just lop off the.
Say it again,
Show us what
Jackie.
you
You want to take off the 50,000 off here like this? This is
Let
just,
her explain.
Is that merged though?
So
it's all
lot,
one lot.
yeah, but, oh, we would have to
It's
follow the
merged.
old file map lines.
He abandoned the map
You
already.
always tell
He
me
abandoned the
not
map,
to
right?
All abandoned.
It's merged.
Merged.
So that goes back,
It's just numbers.
so how many rights are you, on 2 and 3, how many are you short?
Hasn't he already dedicated that land?
Claire, how many,
He has not yet. That does not have a
11,000
conservation easement.
11,000 and
But
change
if
short.
it was conservation easement and then sending parcel, then essentially we'd be
11
making
and
a sending
change
parcel
and
and
15?
using it in the
That's
same
less than
map.
50.
no, but
No.
there's two lots. I'm short on 2 lots.
One lot is short 11,000 and change square feet, and the other lot is short 50,000.
50,
Oh.
40,000.
I thought it was 38.
Something,
So you're
38,000.
looking at about
They total up to
70,000.
50?
70.
50,000 will do the trick
Oh,
for
yeah,
me.
no,
All
you're
right,
right.
so
It was
keep
more.
the
It was
150
39 and
intact,
11.
and then
Right.
bring the other 50, because the intent is the same. In other words, instead of taking 50 off the one and then loading it back up, keep the 150 intact.
And take
And
the
just bring the other 50 from West Hampton on those other two.
He's
Then I'll
already
bring
at
them over
50%.
50%.
So
It's
it's
already at your
But
policy.
this
As long
one
as
is
you're
over,
okay with
is
that.
over the 50%.
Okay.
But the
Yes.
intent- as long as the intent is the same.
Well,
I understand your,
It
I
skirts
understand.
your policy of
I
the
understand, well,
100 and the
it's consistent
100.
with our policy. We're not going over the 50%. We're just looking at the aggregate total of the whole map.
So it's the same map. That's what Marla and I were talking about that in the hallway. It would be a policy decision for this board. It is
It's
the same
consistent,
map.
no, it's consistent with the intent.
Yeah.
It's
That was
a little
of
bit-
not-
it's a
of
little
keep-
bit precedent setting, but I understand, because
It's
in the
unique
scheme of
circumstances,
things.
because I understand
I
your,
wish Joe didn't abandon his lot lines, because then
Well,
he could have
that's
just
what he
sending
does.
and
I'm-
then done it nice
I've
and
been living with
easy.
he has too much time on his hands, so he ends up down the
I always tell him not to abandon it, and then he
So the
does.
But
roads,
if you have this parcel here that has 150,000, so it can't be developed without 50,000 more development rights.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just stated that there are none in the town of Southampton, and you're asking permission to take additional land preserved in West Hampton to put here.
Right.
Then you're going to come back and ask for the same thing here.
Well, she's concerned that you're gonna ask to use West Hampton here, and then,
I've already,
and asked to use it there.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
then it would be
so
like
the
more in
perc-
like
the percentage is getting,
60-ish%,
is getting
70% would be
very,
from West
very
Hampton.
large.
Well, so you could mandate that all the rest of the lots be
Yes.
Southampton
Yeah,
on
but then
this.
Joe will come back and say, I tried, I
And then he'll-
can't,
Well-
please.
Well, that's, I know him. so-
I'm trying to work within the board's policy.
I-
Board's policy has been 50% for maps that are approved more than 10 years ago before. Now you put the condition, you don't approve maps unless you have all the rights. That's the rule.
Right.
This map was approved 10 years ago. Your board's policy has been 50%, 50%, 50/50, okay?
50 from outside,
50 and 50 from the area that you're bringing in. I can do that, but I have to take a little bit off of this
Well,
lot.
you guys don't have to decide this today, but this is his pitch to you, and I understand that you guys have some questions, and some of you seem comfortable, so why don't we think about it? I don't think they're ready to offer a decision.
no,
We're
no,
not-
but we
we're
want
not.
to make sure we understand it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
give us
No,
a few
I
minutes.
told him
understand it, we'll be able to vote
he
on
could pitch it to you essentially,
As long
but
as the
we're not,
intent is
I
the
don't,
same.
I'm not comfortable voting on it today.
No.
No, neither are we, but we want to talk about it a little bit more
Absolutely.
to understand
I told him
it.
this is his chance.
And you would have to draft the resolution, Jackie. Jackie, you'd have to draft the resolution specifically stating why we did what we did, so we're not,
But at
We're
this point,
recognizing
I am
you need-
comfortable filling up the physical land, so that way it's all clean. We don't have to
Right.
talk about it's negative this many, and then we have to add in this many.
What, I think, what other piece of information that I would find helpful
Mm-hmm.
when we get to this next stage is in the overall TRDs,
Mm-hmm.
the percentage that's coming from West Hampton compared to Southampton,
Oh,
which I don't know, but
Yes.
I'm.
No, and I understand your concerns, and, you know, in a big picture, this all like kind of works out, because Joe's basically like, I'm only doing half from West Hampton, and half is gonna be physical land or from Southampton. I did just have another idea though, Joe. Sorry, I have all these ideas today, I don't know where they're coming from. But there is a waiver of the subdivision regs. So, you know, with Joe, he doesn't like to go through the full subdivision because we have these map lines that normally we follow in old file map. But you do have a waiver provision in the code under 292 when it is for preservation purposes. So if we were to preserve that 50 and essentially say that 50 is going to be preserved and utilized for development rights, there is a waiver provision in 292 that allows you to do a one-lot subdivision. And you can actually waive all of the requirements. So that would actually make this a separate parcel, deed it to the town, use the development rights to fill these up, and then you wouldn't have all this checkerboarding crazy.
But that's a sending area. You'd have to change the designation.
It's a conservation, no, but it would still be sending. It would still be used as sending. We
But-
would just be dividing the 50 that he needs and then deeding it to the town because we have that provision.
I don't know, we're operating under old file map regs, so I don't.
But we're not, because, I mean, he's essentially abandoned it. That's why I could have actually re-described it on a line that worked for it to become a sending parcel, and just this parcel would be just a little
But
bit
how
smaller.
can we
Well,
have
once it
abandoned
becomes-
Old Foul Map? This is all Old Foul Map.
He abandoned the underlying.
He abandons the underlying.
Lot lines. So I can't follow those old lot lines anymore, so that would trigger this to be like a true minor subdivision. But in your code, if it's for preservation purposes, if he was gonna deed the top 50 to the town, if they would entertain that, we could then basically deed that top 50 to the town, utilize and sterilize that parcel, and then basically he would have his 100,000 square foot parcel.
The only problem I see there, Jackie, is that's described property, and then you really can't bring described rights onto old filed map rights.
Well, he's already abandoned it.
What's that?
He's already abandoned the map.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it becomes described property. What you were talking about is lopping off the
Yes,
northern
right.
part
Of
of described
described
parcel,
property.
and
But
then
we
using
could-
those
we could
described rights.
We could land West Hampton on it.
The West Ham rights, I'm assuming, are old filed map rights, correct?
Yeah.
It's CR 200 zone, aquifer protection overlay, Pine Barrens Core, West
they're
Hampton
old
Beach
file
School
map
District.
rights.
Old file maps.
Right,
It's
they're
the
not
same-
described.
I'm just
We've
saying
had-
we could land the rates on it before we approve the subdivision.
well,
I mean,
it's
I don't
described
think
now.
that,
It's
I
just
don't
an
think that.
It's just an
there-
idea. Because you have that waiver provision, so you
Yeah,
can
but-
essentially lop off the 50 that he
But,
needs.
but as Dennis
and
is saying,
waive
it's
the full
then,
process.
but it's described property. It's like apples and oranges.
I'd
You
be more
can't-
hesitant. I know we had a big
Be better to
go-around
take-
years ago with
she's
described,
saying. Let it go.
there were people
The apples
don't
can
want
trying to
to
get
transform by
described
this.
rights.
Yeah,
And we
said no.
settled it. I'm worried about reopening that,
Yeah,
I think it's just cleaner to just bring the rights over
from West Hampton
from
Beach
West
onto
Hampton,
the.
land it on 2 and 3,
Right.
and that maintains the intent of our policy.
But then you're still missing 50,000 on lot
Yes.
8.
But he's allowed to bring that 50,000 from West Hampton also.
On 8.
Right.
Yeah.
He's allowed to bring a total of 100,000 from West Hampton. So what he's gonna do is bring 50 and spread
But
it
he's
out
already
between 2
brought-
and
have
3,
you not already
and then the
brought-
other
Yeah.
50.
Have you not already brought rights from West
Yes.
Hampton?
On lots 2 and 3, but not on lot 8. Haven't touched lot 8.
So how many did you bring in?
Put 100,000 on 2 and 3.
Okay, so he's
Look.
already brought it.
Yeah, I'm following the board's policy.
So you can't do
He
another,
brought the max already.
so you can't do another 100?
Well,
'Cause he's
but
already
what
used.
he was talking about is taking 50 off the big piece, landing it on there, and then bringing another 100,
Another 50,
Robbing
Another
Peter to pay
50.
Paul.
back to the,
Yeah,
to
but
the-
what Jackie
West
is
Hampton.
saying is that it's
Right.
already,
back to the original one, aren't we?
Well, we've already designated a receiving parcel. I have never
Yeah.
seen you pull off rights from a
Yeah,
receiving
no.
parcel.
right.
That's my problem.
That's what,
That's
and
my
I
problem.
agree
That's
with
my
Jackie.
problem.
I think it's
So-
So
cleaner
that's why I
just
was
to bring the
thinking of
rights over.
creative ways to lop off some of it.
As long as the
so that
numbers
we're not
add up.
actually doing that.
Yeah, as long as, we should just focus on the numbers, as long as the math adds up, we should, and we can draft a resolution explaining our, our procedure, then I think we should just keep it
Yeah,
clean.
and I just have
I
a little
think it's-
reservations about taking it off a development
Yeah, I
parcel,
do
but it's up
too.
to you. That's
No, we're
the
not taking it
board.
off the development, but that's why I say keep the 150 intact and bring another 50 in for 2
So
and
that the
3.
overall map reflects the percentages.
Bring more
versus
from West Hampton.
Right.
Parcels.
Don't do any horse trading between
No.
Southampton
Right,
parcels.
keep it
But then
separate.
make a finding that you're gonna allow him to
That the
bring
reason we exceeded,
50,000 additional
Right.
from West
we'll make
Hampton.
findings
That the-
explaining why we exceeded, so 10 years from now, we don't have another
And that the
development.
numbers
So Blair
comply
isn't in
with the
front of us
entire
10 years
map.
from now.
I like that.
That's why I wanted.
Yes.
And that he'll never do this again.
now what's the,
Never
wait a
do-
minute,
Until he does.
listen, I'm confused.
A covenant on his.
What's the entire map? You're saying the
We
entire
don't know,
map.
that's.
But Kathleen,
The old
That's
file
what I
map.
was asking.
The old file map that you're looking at, so the.
but nothing north of the
Railroad
of the
line.
railroad line.
Of the power line.
This is all preserved, so
preserved.
conservation easement deeded to the
That's
town
the
already.
intent, that's a big
Yeah, which
block
is, if
of,
that's deeded to the town, how could you be using it? That
Oh,
was,
Conservation easement. It's with the town attorney's office.
yes.
I've already signed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how could, if the town has, if there's a
He
conservation
He
easement.
hasn't filed the conservation easement yet. The map is a little deceiving. You've planned for all those conservation easements. The only conservation easements we have are on lot 4 and lot, I guess, is it 5?
And this little piece in here, and this one
The
is
other
with
ones have
with the
not
town
filed yet.
attorney's
Okay,
office.
that was,
Yeah,
was.
I've approved it.
You've approved,
Yeah,
okay,
we've already
so,
looked at
Yeah,
it.
she approved the 2. He hasn't filed the
Okay.
one on 8 yet.
Okay,
So you can't lop off a piece of that,
well,
right?
that was
Well,
one
that's
of
what
my
her concern was,
concerns.
that it's already a conservation easement.
Yeah.
But lot 8 does not yet have a conservation easement on it.
It's almost
Right.
conserved.
It's proposed to be a conservation easement.
It's in conservation limbo.
But it's not.
the rights
It's
are
not-
underneath the
It's not
conservation
filed,
easement.
it's not
Right,
filed as
there's
of
still
yet.
fee title.
Yeah.
I still have the title, I still have the rights underneath it, even though I give him the conservation easement.
you still have the rights.
I mean,
Still
he's
the
still
rights.
allowed to
The
access
intent is
it
so
and
that the
walk in.
development
I
of
mean,
the
it's
lot,
still his
nobody
property,
actually
but
approves
we
anything
benefit
north of
from
the
Yeah.
Right.
extension line.
the openness and,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So we
So
can't.
do you get any rights from that? Does he get any rights? Or you've
He
already
does, because he
taken
has
it
the,
from
Yeah,
he does 'cause he has
I'm
the
keeping them
physical.
all.
In a perfect world, he'd have the physical land and he'd just bring the 50,000 or so to make that whole. So, I mean, this is like what we want to see. We want to see people
Yeah.
assemble
Yeah.
all this as much as possible, meet zoning, and then bring the remaining development rights, and hopefully bring them from the correct schools.
I think that the one piece of information we still need is, in the overall development, you brought in X amount of, the overall amount of land you had to bring rights in, and the percentage of those that are coming from West Hampton, if you took the 50 that you need for Lot 8, as well as the shortage you have for the other 2 lots.
That's a great
And that,
idea,
and
Joe.
that percentage is going to be not 50, it's going to be something north of that.
If you could, that's a
Maybe.
great. I know what
Shouldn't
you're
be.
saying.
Maybe,
We need the analysis of everything.
Do a schedule, Joe.
Overall map.
from
Schedule of that
Southampton
overall
and
development
everything
section,
from West
what
Hampton.
rights came in.
My assistant will take care of that.
Exactly.
She
Very,
will make a chart.
very good idea
Yeah.
from Gloria.
Good.
Math.
Because
Good
that-
math.
Overall, and Dennis's idea of looking at the overall map,
Gloria just said that.
and Gloria wants to count.
Let's
Gloria,
give a
you beat me
woman
to it. I was
credit
just
where.
gonna
Okay.
say the same thing.
I
It
give
may
all the
be-
credit
it
to
may be
Gloria.
that in the scheme of things, if we don't look at it on individual parcels, you're still under the 50%. And if you're
Right,
over
yeah.
the 50%, we can write something that explains what we just
The
discussed for the
rationale.
last hour.
Yep,
Okay, I got it.
perfect. We'll get that together and then we'll act on that
Next time.
The next time,
When we have the
When you're ready.
revised map.
when you have the, right.
Yeah, when we have all the information.
Yeah, and you've seen the
But
town.
you'll also amend your
engineer.
development, your road.
Well, I didn't, the surveyor didn't want to prepare a new road plan unless he had, the
Well,
board
you're
was
gonna
okay.
get
supportive
the
of that.
engineer- Yeah, we
You
support.
like it, so he'll do it.
No gates, Joe.
No gates.
So you got 2/3.
And
of
good
the big
research,
one
Brooke. I want to commend you on that, because I don't know if he does.
Yeah. You've learned and you've gone the next level beyond Dad.
Are these, do you want these back?
No, we can keep those there.
So I just wanted to let you know that 5 Hubbard Avenue is off the agenda, and the signature for 35 and 39 is off the agenda. They didn't get their maps back from the health department.
So wait a minute.
Oh, this is, I think,
So 11 is off.
11 is off.
give that to Glib. I think,
what
Blair,
else?
this is your copy.
5 Hubbard, which is number 6.
11 is off.
5
6
Hubbard.
and 11 are off.
6 and 11 are off the agenda.
We're done.
And I did want to let the planning board know I got some good news from the town board resolution on Tuesday that I was just appointed principal planner.
Very good. Congratulations. Yeah.
She was appointed principal planner.
So is,
were you
thank you.
before?
Thank you.
Thanks, Blair.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, Joe. Safe travels.
Thank you
See you,
for the,
Marla. Good to see you again.
For the brain test.
That's Marlon, we'll have to come back.
She did, well, she was approved, that's what I mean.
Yes.
So motion to adjourn
adjourn.
by
Motion.
Phil, second by
Hey,
Gloria,
Gloria.
and all in favor, aye.
Do we have a
Six in
quorum
favor.
tonight?
We
I'm
do.
in.
We have.
I'm here.